Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. I am Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. We're going to be doing some live astrology readings on the channel this evening. I hope you guys are doing well. We'll let the live go for just a few minutes just so people know that we're here. But if you can see me, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up and like the stream. It's really helpful to let everybody know that we're here. We got a lot of people waiting tonight who are waiting on astrology readings. So I'm excited to get into it with you guys. If you're new to my channel, welcome. We're here every Friday. We're doing live readings. We alternate between tarot and astrology every other week. This week we're going to be doing astrology readings. If you would like to join my memberships and become a part of my monthly level 3 members, you can. You can get a reading once a month with me. You can choose tarot or astrology. We always take our level 3 people first, and I know we have a number of them tonight. So I'll give you guys a little bit of like a rundown on how this works. There is a QR code. You're going to see this somewhere right around me throughout the readings tonight. You can scan that. It'll take you directly to my PayPal. You can make a donation for a reading. The reading donation minimum is $55 US. We'll cast your chart and you can ask any one particular question you would like, whether that's about a transit, timing, or a natal aspect. And we also have an option if you would like to get a Synastry reading as well. How's everybody doing? Let me say hi to everybody. What's up, Anne? I got you. Hey, Enchanted. Hey, Dina. Hey, Lika. Butterfly. What's going on? Hey, Emma. I got you. Good evening, Anne. Hey, Coco. All the regulars are here. Ashley, if you make a donation for a reading, you can put the question in the memo box. So scan the QR code. It'll take you to PayPal. You can put in your information, make the donation. And in the memo box, we need specific information from you guys. I need to know your time, date, location of birth. Please spell out the month and give me your AM and PM. That will be really helpful for me to do the readings. And then, yeah, let me know what your question is, especially if your name differs from your PayPal name, because sometimes you guys have a different YouTube name. What else? I think that's pretty much it. I'll give you guys a little bit of a rundown of who I have already, because we've got a whole master list of level 3 people. So I'm going to be taking Catherine Murray, getting her reading out for the month. Anne, who's a new level 3 member. Dina's got a question about Synastry. Lika, Enchanted Crossroads, and Emma. And let's see. And Coco. So we've got Coco too. So we've got all of you guys here. So we'll take you, and then Ashley, Rome, and Samira. You guys are the level, well, you guys are the donation reading. So many levels, excuse me. That I've got. So let me just make sure I'm not missing anyone. It looks like we got Angie that wanted to get on there. So let me add you also, Angie. Looks like you're already a level 3. Wasn't sure else to submit. Okay. You can always just submit it in the chat. And we got Dorothy. So let me do that. Dorothy and Angie. All right, so we got everybody. Everybody cool? Thank you. I appreciate it. That's what I did yesterday. All right, cool. What's up, Toddman? So let's go ahead and we'll get going. We've got a number of level 3 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you guys want to get a reading, you want to get in the queue, make sure you scan the QR code so that way you're guaranteed to get a reading. As it stands right now, it's going to be at least an hour, okay? Just because of the amount of people that we already have. Things are getting kind of crazy too. We're coming out of Venus retrograde, coming out of Mercury retrograde. We're coming into the Venus-Uranus squares. Pretty soon we're going to be in eclipse season. So you guys are going to notice the energy is kind of peak over the next month. So there's definitely a lot of stuff going on. All right, so let's get into it. Get in the queue now. All right, so let's first start with, who do we got first? We got Catherine. So Catherine, you're probably watching this and you're like, she remembered. Let me pull your chart up here. All right, Catherine. So wanted to give you your astrology for the month ahead. So Catherine is a Leo rising, sun in Scorpio, and she's got a moon in Leo. All right, Catherine. Well, one of the things that I wanted to chat with you about, sorry, is the sizing okay on that? I can bring it down a little bit. Is that better? One of the things I wanted to talk to you about is that you are finally getting ready to see Venus come into conjunction with your ascendant pretty soon. I know Venus has been retrograde back and forth over your ascendant. A lot of it has been about kind of tending to your health, working on the way that you communicate, right? Because Venus has connections to your third house. Also working on how you think about relationships. Now, thankfully, Venus coming into conjunction with your ascendant can be almost like this revealing or returning to something. It can be better health. It can be better relationship with self. In particular, this is at 24 degrees, so it's definitely on like an emotional, spiritual level, right? So as you're starting to see Venus come into conjunction with your ascendant, you're also going to see Venus square off with Uranus, and that's some tricky energy because it's also going to be doing stuff with your natal Scorpio placements. So you want to be paying attention right around here, September 28th, right when Venus starts to come into the square with Uranus, and it's also going to be coming into a square with your natal Neptune. Perhaps maybe this is about learning to really focus on taking care of yourself, putting yourself first, rather than feeling like you're putting yourself on back burner, not discussing your feelings, not tending to your emotional needs, your home needs, your family needs, and also challenges or changes maybe where you are making some shifts in regards to how you lead or how you take initiative out in the world or professionally. So this will be like a T-square between these planets here. And that's kind of like the grand finale of the Venus retrograde. You'll see Venus come out of a square with Neptune. Things get a little bit easier. And then Venus is going to square your sun. And that looks like it's going to be happening right around early October. And for many people, the ingress of Venus into Virgo is going to be kind of like, okay, now we can get back down to business, or like now we can get grounded because it's moving into an earth sign. And for you, technically, it's moving into your whole sign second. So it can be really great for like feeling better in the body. It can also be better for money and resources as well. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that you are going through a Mars transit. So Mars is going to be coming into contact with your South Node here pretty soon. I know you just recently had your nodal return. So that means that there's also been this needing to have conversations with letting certain people go. And that might be like cutting contracts, cutting contact. That can also be a lot about shifting the way that you look at how you view relationships and whether or not you're feeling like you're being too lenient or you're kind of being like a pushover for some people. This is all happening 12th house to your Scorpio sun. So there's a lot of like doing some mental housekeeping when it comes to relationships in general. So that seems to be like a pretty big theme as well. So it's going to be interesting to see like Mars come into contact with the South Node, clearing out something karmically about relationships, and then also to see Venus come into an opposition with Saturn. So there's a lot of like, no, putting myself first, prioritizing health and self-care, and needing to keep certain people at arm's length. That's kind of what this is like looking like to me. And then finally, you're getting ready to have an eclipse also. That's going to be very close to your Juno. I was looking at that earlier. So the mid-October solar eclipse that's coming through at 21 degrees is going to be in conjunction to your Juno, which is about partnership, harmony, diplomacy. Obviously, the South Node is there. So this can also be talking about like karmic relationships and partnerships kind of coming or going. At the time, the dispositor Venus is also very close to your Jupiter. So I don't know if this is going to be about learning to be your own best partner first, or that maybe you're bringing somebody in that could potentially be like new relationship, new business relationship, right? Virgo, that could be happening as well. But you got a lot of like Juno stuff going on here. So I'm wondering, is this about saying hello to somebody that you have some kind of like past life connection with, or is there somebody who's coming in to help you with the next leg of the relationship journey, who's just here to kind of be like a companion, right? That definitely might be a theme. Solar eclipse in the third could prompt contracts, negotiations, agreements, things involving gadgets. And Venus and Libra can be about luxury. So you might see like needing to buy a new phone, making changes around transportation, making changes around gadgets. Okay, so that's something that can likely be coming up here as well. Obviously, planets getting into Scorpio, you know, the late degrees of Libra, early degrees of Scorpio, is kind of like that cosmic clearing out period that we have the month before our birthday. And so I'm wondering, is this clearing out coming in the form of like movement, traveling, like something like that might be coming up. And it can strongly involve the relationship that you either have with like neighbors or siblings, or some kind of like negotiation that can be kind of taking place here as well. I do feel like on the health front, you know, you're also getting ready to see Pluto go direct, and you're going to have a retrograde that's going to be in Capricorn at the end of the year. But I have a feeling you're coming into a time period where I think that it's going to be a whole lot easier for you in terms of physical health and mental health as well. Just keep in mind, wherever Mars goes, Mars kind of attacks. So Mars being on the South Node and coming into a square with your natal Mars, you want to be very mindful of balance issues, moving around, right? And how you're communicating and talking to people. It's very Libra in the third. Anyway, I hope this reading and message finds you well. Let me know. I will talk to you next month. All right, so we have got Anne. And Anne, I'm pretty sure you're here, but I wanted to ask you a question. So I'll read your question out loud. So Anne's April 21st, 71. She was born at 11:58 p.m. in Portland. She says, will you please take a look at my natal Pluto, Mars, Saturn, Mercury ascendant? I feel like I'm moving this T-square for 2 weeks or so. What do you think? I just want to know if you have anything I should know. I'm starting a floral design business after 3 years of preparation. Would like to know if it's a good or bad time to announce that this is going public. All right, Anne, so you are a Cap rising, Sun in Taurus, and your moon is in Pisces. Cool. Well, thanks for joining level 3. We're glad to have you. All right, so questions about your natal Pluto, Mars, Saturn. All right. So, I mean, basically, I use Placidus. So yes, Mars is in the first house. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Actually, quite a nice placement to have your Mars. Mars in the first house takes action much more easily and independently. Capricorn is applying that energy to work or things that require some kind of like, kind of Capricorn, you know, professional energy. So to see Mars in the first, I like. The trine to Pluto, very powerful, very dedicated, very committed. Technically, Pluto is in the 9th house, so this might mean that you have kind of like an entrepreneurial spirit, especially when it comes to taking charge and making big changes in terms of what your belief system is, revolving around, like sales, being of service. Advertising can very much be the 9th house as well. And Mars in a trine to your natal Saturn in the 5th house. 5th house is about self-expression, creativity, joy, taking risks, taking chances. It can also be about self-employment. So I love that you have Saturn in a sign that deals with flowers and growth and things that are beautiful and ruled by Venus. I love that Saturn, which is traditionally a bit of like a gloomier planet, sits in a Venusian sign in the 5th house, where part of your expression is about dedicating yourself in some kind of form that may deal with flowers, right? So looking at the transits and kind of putting the pieces together, Uranus has just recently entered into your Placidus 5th house. So, radically changing transforming, electrifying things that might have been hobbies or creative projects or ways of expressing yourself, and then it can turn into something new. You know, obviously transits to Saturn are important for you because Saturn rules your chart. So having Uranus come into contact with Saturn, it has its pros and its cons. If you've been feeling like too restricted and that you haven't had the time or you haven't been ready to release a project or something you've been working on, Uranus can show up and go, do it now, we got to do it now, right? It is at a 22, so it does deal with timing and structure and business and making sure that everything is like really polished and ready to go. Obviously, you're also picking up a trine from Uranus to Mars, and you know, Mars is the ruler of the 4th house, so it makes me wonder, are you doing this business out of your home? Like, do you have the space in your home that you need? Do you feel like you have enough space to kind of continue to grow into this business? Are you prepared inevitably in this next year when Saturn starts coming into contact with your moon and into 2025, where when Saturn hits your moon and your Venus, you're either going to need a bigger space or you're going to need an office space, or you're going to be considering like a storefront or a way to be able to like ship stuff out. Like, you're going to need more. So if you're working from home now, it's not a big deal, but I'm just giving you that heads up that I do think that that will happen because it will conjunct these two planets and it will sextile Saturn and Uranus. Okay, but you know, all of the best and most successful businesses have started in an apartment or in somebody's office or in their garage, so that's totally fine. I would say, you know, timing wise of launching something, to some extent, you know, you're out of the Mercury retrograde, so you're good in that sense. I would like to see you working with a time where there are some really nice Venus aspects. You are having a solar eclipse that's coming in Libra in mid-October. So for a Capricorn rising chart, there being a solar eclipse in your whole sign 10th, it can be an indication that you're getting ready to like launch something significant in regards to, you know, your relationship with the public, right? Libra on the midheaven. The challenge here for me is that you do have transit Pluto right now still in a square to your midheaven, and it's exactly at 28 degrees. So you'll see that square off and on for the next year. Sometimes squares can push us into uncomfortable territory where we get out of our status, you know, our comfort zone, and when we move to a new status. It can mean that there can be some challenges that you're experiencing in regards to being able to connect to your customer base, right? Because the South Node is there, it's ruled by the moon. Moon is your 7th house lord. I want to make sure that you're going to get enough visibility and that there's going to be enough eyes on you and that people are going to know where to find you, where to find your business. That's my recommendation. Equally, in this next year when Saturn comes into conjunction with the moon and also Venus, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you what's going to work. I would really like you to do a lot of business locally. You know, I wonder, do you have an interest, because you have the North Node in the 2nd, of doing like farmers markets, craft fairs? Are you interested in going to, you know, work with people in your local community? Because Saturn coming into contact with your moon and Venus can very much be about your neighborhood. This is also in a sign that deals with private spaces and centers. So you might do some work with like nonprofit organizations. You might be able to do like campaigns and collaborations with them. So you might be able to do like floral work for them by contract. Equally, churches or maybe temples would be a good idea, Pisces. And I also think that right around the time that Saturn is coming into contact with Venus, closer to 2025, you know, that's going to kind of be, you know, really helping, I think, grow the business. Granted, Neptune will be there as well. In terms of like timing, I'm not a fan of doing any big launches right around an eclipse. I would rather like to see something like after the solar eclipse in October. Let's maybe get Mars into a trine, if we can, with your moon, which rules clients. And Mars is really strong in your 10th house in Scorpio. We could even do something like, around early November, because you've got a lot of power hitting planets, Mars, Sun, and Scorpio in your 10th house of business, loosely trining both Saturn and Neptune. You've got the moon in its home sign. You've got Sun in opposition to Jupiter. So I don't know exactly, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but somewhere around like the November 2nd time can be great. The one thing I will say is that you do have Venus in its fall, and it is kind of in an opposition to Neptune and your natal Venus, but it is trining Uranus. Another option that you can aim for can be when you get Venus in Libra. You do it after the Scorpio new moon, and maybe you do something like when this is trining Neptune and your moon. And I would like to do something where the moon maybe is in Aquarius trine Venus. So another option would be November 18th. Once again, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but this is decent astrology too. That Sun-Mars conjunction is in a sextile to Pluto, so it's powerful, and your natal Mars. At least Venus, being that it's a floral business, is in better harmony, and it's making a trine to the moon in the 2nd house. And you're still getting all of the yummy aspects of the moon square Jupiter. So I think it could be very much sought after. Also, I would say, you know, moon and Venus in conjunction around your 3rd house makes me feel like obviously a lot of weddings over the next year as Saturn shows up. It can be doing a lot of like private weddings and ceremonies. And I will go as far as saying there is room for me to believe that there's more than just doing like floral type work. Pisces is oils and potions and other things that you can kind of create. So I wonder, are you going to start taking flowers that you don't sell? You know, do you dry them? Do you press them? Do you turn them into products? Do you sell them, you know, to other people? Because this is about, you know, when things are, you know, basically like not used. And so how you find ways to still use them. Another option is develop a lot of relationships with local photographers. So that way you can potentially like, you know, collaborate with each other maybe. Because I think that Venus, with your Venus-Neptune transit, can be good for that. You have to really focus on being consistent with social media here. And yeah, I think that both of those dates are pretty decent. Personally, I'm leaning more towards the 2nd date. I know that that's still about another like 2 months away, but you know, the astrology for the rest of the year, you gotta kind of pick and choose. But hopefully those two are helpful for you. All right, so we've got Dina. Where is she? There we go. All right, so we've got Dina, and we've got the girlfriend. Sorry, guys, I've got so many charts up here. There we go. All right, so Dina says, hey, level 3, I joined. Okay, so my girlfriend of 6 months broke up with me out of nowhere, provided no clarity as to why. Is she going to come back to me romantically? I've got your chart, I've got her chart. All right, let's take a look. Thanks, guys. I'll do an update and let you know who I have. And I think we're about to call last call, so get in there if you want. Otherwise, we got you if you guys signed up. All right, so Dina, a couple things. Obviously, being Venus ruled and this Venus retrograde, and because Leo is out of bounds for you, it represents some kind of maybe unexpected change to your status that has come. And obviously, you know, Venus has been in a really difficult angle. She's been in a square to your sun and also Uranus. So lots of like starts and stops with like relationship stuff. Regardless of when you guys split, this energy started in June. So I think, actually, wait a second. I think you said, When did you guys split? Let me know when you guys broke up, because that's, yeah. Let me know. Sorry, my live is being weird. What's going on here? Let me see if I can get this back up. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Trying to pull the chat up, but it does not want to do that. All right. I'll pull this up in a second. Anyway, so you're now kind of seeing like the finale of the Venus square to your sun. You have got Mars coming into conjunction with your ascendant, and you're going to start seeing some oppositions taking place to your 7th house, which basically means more or less like you're going to keep seeing the continuation of the eclipses that you have had since the spring. Sorry, guys, I cannot figure out why I cannot get these up. I have to be able to see you so I can communicate with you, but it will not show me. Weird. Come on. It doesn't want to show me the chat. There we go. Okay, now I've got it. Okay. So basically, now that Mars is coming into these degrees pretty soon, it's going to start reactivating these eclipses that you had in the spring, which can talk about some kind of back and forth that you're having with another person. People returning, right? We usually see people return when we have something going on with our 7th house Lord, sometimes our 5th house transits, and you've got a full moon coming up here pretty soon. So I don't know if you guys are still in contact, or if you got any clarity other than, you know, her just being like, I'm done. But I would be really curious about what comes up right around this full moon in Aries in about a week's time. Now, for a Libra rising, you're going to have a full moon in Aries, which can be about some completion or something in regards to another person, ruled by Mars, and Mars is in your sign, conjunct the South Node. So on one hand, there's going to be this feeling of you being like, I really want to reach out to somebody. I really want to start a fight with somebody. I really want to, you know, like get into contact with them. Mars in Libra is about arguing about balance or fairness, but it could also have this adverse effect where you're like, you know what, if I haven't heard from this person by this time, I'm letting this go. So you want to watch for completions and like fireworks somewhere around a week from now. No clarity. She reached out yesterday. Okay. So something about a week from now is what I would be paying attention to. You know, the weird thing is like with the North Node Venus transit, even though the North Node is moving away, Venus is still activated. So it means that there can still be a sense of a woman coming in and like wanting to connect with you. We've talked about how your Venus is at a Gemini degree. So there can be more than one person that's being like kind of brought into the mix, whether it's like you're talking to her and you're talking to another person or somebody else shows up. According to this activation, somebody was supposed to show up that was a female Venus, and now you're going to have somebody else who's going to show up that's going to most likely be a man. So whether or not it's a business partner, if it's a client, if it's a mentor, right, Jupiter, or if it ends up being like a male figure, you're going to meet another person because the North Node is coming for Jupiter. In a woman's chart, that can represent a husband or a long-term committed partner. And remember, Aries is somebody who is assertive and kind of takes some kind of action. Anyway, I looked at her chart as well, and I know that she is a Libra rising. So you guys at least have that going in your favor where both of you guys are going through similar transits at the same time. So I'm not saying it's going to play out exactly the same for both of you. But it's even adding a little bit more to my theory that there is some kind of conclusion that should be coming right around this full moon. Now, you don't need me to tell you, right? Like Pluto in opposition to her moon means she's feeling a lot of pressure with her career. There's a lot going on with her emotionally. With the North Node in Chiron directly on her descendant, she does feel like there's a lot that she needs to work on and heal in regards to a relationship. Until we start to see a positive transit with Mars, like Mars coming into a trine with Saturn, or maybe Mars coming into a sextile with her natal placement, it most likely won't be until then that we start seeing like better relationship dynamics. I feel inclined to tell you to be careful with both of you guys when Mars crosses the South Node, because both of you guys can get a little testy. That's going to be in early October. And I have more faith for when Mars starts coming into a trine with Saturn. This is going to be right around mid-October. And then another time to watch is going to be when Mars makes an opposition to Uranus, and it's going to square her sun. To me, this seems like the theme in November is going to be whether or not she's on the same page with another person about values. There can be conflicts over what you guys both need in terms of a relationship, because there's going to be squares to the 5th house. But the long and short of it is like you can talk about the synastry until the cows come home, but you don't really know what's going to happen unless you look at the transits involving the composite chart. So this is the midpoint. And in your guys' composite chart, you are a Libra rising, Sun in Aries at 6 degrees, Moon in Libra. I'm just going to say this flat out, okay? This is a challenging composite chart because you have a full moon in the 6th and the 12th house being activated, and it's all squaring Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. Like, the issue in this composite chart is communication. There's communication issues, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. You know, there might be periods where somebody's giving somebody the cold shoulder, but they really want them to reach out and say something, but that person doesn't. There can be issues in terms of also like understanding the past, because this belongs to the whole sign 4th, and like where both of you guys come from different backgrounds, quite literally. There can be cultural differences. There can be very different kind of ways that you guys were raised. And that can also kind of hinder or create some issues in the relationship communication. Now that full moon that's coming in Aries is going to be right on your sun. So I feel very confident that something about the events around the end of October, the end of September is going to give you your answer. Can this get easier? Well, I mean, you've got a Libra rising chart with the moon in the 12th, which means you guys are clearing out some kind of relationship karma, learning how to move past miscommunications instead of just shutting down. You're getting ready to see eclipses on your ascendant conjunct Mars, which means if y'all are together in mid-October and you're not clearing the air, there is definitely going to be some drama coming up, because the solar eclipse can literally act as if, like, you know, it could really flush everything out, or it can give you guys a fresh start. Then when you have eclipses that are going to be coming down the road next spring, it's still going to be on your guys' moon. So there's a lot of lunar transits coming up, which seem to kind of indicate that the way forward in a relationship like this is through clear communication and the willingness to do the work to kind of clear out relationship issues or insecurities from the past. This is not an easy composite chart to have. I'm just going to kind of be honest with you, because the 6th and the 12th house, we can get lost here and we can kind of nitpick. And this chart's ruled by Venus, and Saturn's going to come into conjunction with Venus in the 5th next year, which means you guys may have very different of opinions on what it means to be in a relationship and what you guys are both looking for, especially at a 9. Like, one person might be really adamant about looking to like settle into a long-term commitment, be looking to like have a marriage or a ceremony, and the other person may not. Once again, also home issues, housing issues. You know, can you guys get your relationship to a point where you can live together, right? Can you do that? And if you stay with this into next year, just know even in the spring, there's going to be eclipses that are going to activate this 6th house, where both of you guys are going to have to be willing to do the work on yourselves individually, Aries, in order to better partner with that opposition to the moon in Libra. It's a very action-packed chart you guys have. It's almost like you guys came together because you're here to work out communication issues, right? Will she come back? Sure, I'm sure she will. Yeah. But I'm thinking about the fireworks in mid-October, and if you guys cannot find a way to communicate effectively what goes on there, and whether or not you guys are going to have the means to be able to continue to keep making it through some of the bigger eclipses next spring, and also Saturn on your guys' Venus, because that's going to be the real test in this relationship, will be that. Because it's like, if you guys are going to do it, you're moving forward. Obviously, you guys are both Libra risings. So you know, with that North Node in your 7th in both of your charts, you guys are learning how to be with partners who take action to facilitate being in a relationship. And that means both parties are going to go, okay, I'm doing my work that I need to do. So we're not fighting about these things. We're separately working through it so we can come back together a little bit stronger. So it requires work on both sides. I would say see how it goes until mid-October. That likely is going to give you your answer. And if you guys are going to stay, or if you're going to get back together and you're going to make it work, it's like you gotta put on your big girl pants and get ready for next year, because that's really when you're gonna see the fireworks. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, so we've got Lika, Enchanted, Emma. You guys are all next. Lika. Let's see. Where is she? There she is. You're welcome. Keep me updated. All right, so we got Lika. I gotta scroll back a little bit, forgive me. Lika says, hey Candace, calling in for the September. I don't have a question, whatever you think I need to know. Amazing as always. Well, thank you. Let's take a look. All right, so you got Pisces rising, and your sun is in Gemini, your moon's in Sag. Ooh, how is that Saturn retrograde on your ascendant? Girl, it's going to sit right on your ascendant when it goes direct here. I kind of feel inclined to tell you to pay attention, especially October 9th on, because you're going to have Saturn coming into retrograde conjunction with your ascendant, and I see Venus in opposition on your descendant. So something about this is a lot of like keeping certain things that might look good, but you know are not good for you at a distance. And I don't know if this is a person, if this is a potential client, if this is a relationship with a coworker. I don't know what this is, but this is kind of like the finale of Venus retrograde, that Venus-Saturn opposition. I've been warning people all summer for that particular aspect, and it's happening on an angle, so that's pretty prominent. Now you're going to hear, as a Gemini, oh, you know, you got Venus going into your 4th, so there's something going on with a relative or something, or someone at home needing you, and, you know, but you're needed at work, and, you know, you're torn between something that you want to do for your family or you want to do for a roommate, or maybe it's just wishing you could be home versus the responsibility that you have out in the world. However, putting it under the guise of a Pisces rising, it's like probably learning to be like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I can't cover your shift, right? Or, you know, I can't have you staying over here. I need some space. It's learning how to define boundaries with another person. So watch for that right around October 8th, 9th, 10th. That might get activated actually on the 10th when the moon goes through here. On the flip side, you know, oppositions create opportunities. So this can also be kind of indicating that it's bringing somebody in, but you're exercising some kind of caution. And learning to be like, okay, cool, you like me, that's great, but like, let me, you know, come to things on my own terms, right? But basically, you're only going to have Saturn in conjunction to this degree pretty much one more time. And then when Saturn goes direct at the beginning of November, Saturn will go direct on your ascendant. Well, it's been my experience that when an outer planet goes direct on an angle, something really significant can happen. Saturn is technically intercepted in Aquarius, so it's a blind spot, and it rules also your friendships and your goals. So it might also be a time around the beginning of November where you become really aware of just like what I need, what my goals are, what my vision is, what I'm manifesting for myself. Meditation is really powerful, and really practicing like shutting down your psychic feelers. And like really knowing how to not take on other people's like emotions and be empathic, or learning how to like kind of cut things off, right? Because where Saturn wants you to be mindful of that so you're not having energy drains, Neptune is like anything goes. Okay, so it's kind of contradicting to have Saturn and Neptune both retrograde in the first house, because you're learning how to feel your way into things, but not getting kind of too latched on to other people's like vibes. So baths, sprays, anything that's about clearing your auric field is like really important during this time. And you will not have Saturn back in these degrees for about 28 years. So the intentions that you set, the boundaries that you set for yourself while Saturn is sitting there on your ascendant is pretty significant. It's going to be at that degree until about the beginning of December. So how can you use this to the best of your abilities? I really feel like all November long is about learning how to say no, no thank you, or I don't receive that, right? Or that's not a part of my vision, or, you know, learning to basically create those boundaries for yourself so you are not getting distracted, and so you can kind of have your blinders on and stay consistent with where you're going. Yes, been practicing meditation daily, trying to get better when my mind races. I just said that today, picking up others' energy, needing to set boundaries. So Saturn, right? Saturn is also physical. It's kind of hard because Saturn in Pisces is like, what's going on in the world right now? It's like trying to keep up with the illusion of control, right? So there's a lot of people in control. They're like, we've got it handled. And people are looking around being like, no, I don't think you do. So Saturn retrograde on your ascendant is, how do I handle these energies? How do I handle the invisible world, right? How do I handle everything that's going on, you know, for me energetically or spiritually? So Saturn can hold on too tight, and then Neptune can dissolve. So the key here, I think for you, is about learning not to be entirely too rigid, right? And also not allowing other people to kind of have access to your energy. So being that Saturn rules your 12th house, I think also can be really helpful, is just having like a regular like nighttime routine, you know? Pay attention to your dreams and some of that stuff too. But yeah, a whole month. So I would say November is the month that you want to make sure that you're staying the path, you're not falling off. If you're really committed to your meditation practice, do it every day. If you're really committed to a spiritual practice, make sure that you're doing it at the same time. And maybe like find time to do things on Saturdays, like actually work with and honor Saturn. And this can also be a time where you're also noticing that you're more aware of your age. That comes up with Saturn transits. You might be reaching certain goals with your physical body. It can be a time that's really awesome for doing some like resistance training, some light resistance training. I think of like Saturn in the first house in Pisces is like swimming laps, or, you know, using a rowing machine, or, you know, actually getting out on the water and like physically rowing, something that's like repetitive, but it can become like meditative, if that makes sense, or just something that you're doing regularly in that sense. Anyway, too long didn't hear. Stay consistent with your goals. November is the month that you do not want to get distracted. Really focus on setting those goals consistently. And also it's about dissolving anything that you're really ready to kind of let go of as well. And then finally, as you come out of that, you're going to see towards the new year, Saturn's coming into a square with your sun. So I know we've talked about this, but it can feel like delays getting things done. Your sun is at a 6 and your Mars is at a 7. So this can also be feeling restricted, limited, bogged down, doing things for your dad, doing things for male relatives, having to be there to kind of help them. So if you've got older relatives or siblings, right, third house, that you're having to talk to and take care of, it can feel overwhelming to where it's like there's so much responsibility or so much that you're needing to kind of organize that there are times where you get overwhelmed and you're not going to want to communicate. So it's about learning how to just say enough and then disengaging, right? So you're not kind of getting sucked into some of that stuff. But yeah, watch for lower energies that can happen. And also sometimes when Saturn squares our sun, especially you Sun Mars, is your dad having health issues? And then that eclipse that we had in April, you're about to see the reactivation of this in the 8th house. That's the other food for thought for me. So when Mars comes back to that degree. October 8th through the 11th. Yeah. Usually when Saturn squares the sun, I mean, it's common. It doesn't happen in all charts, but I've seen this, you know, father figures, bosses, sometimes older brothers, husbands, stepdads, grandpas, vitality issues, heart problems, but your sun is at a 6. So is it mobility related? Is he having problems with breathing? Gemini, is he having issues with getting around? Sometimes I see with those degrees too, issues with vision. Anyway, I'm not trying to be the, you know, be the bringer of bad news, but okay. He's in the hospital today. Okay. So, the one thing that I want you to be mindful of is, yeah, I think with Saturn in the square, you know, if you're around people who are ill or having health problems, when you're with them, be present with them, do what you can. You know, so much about the mutable squares are about adapting. But when you come back out of being in like a healthcare setting, sage, take a shower, do something to get that energy off of your body, because that can actually make you ill. Saturn retrograde towards your ascendant in Pisces, it can make you ill. It impacted his vision. I'm sorry to hear that. So, keeping him in my thoughts, but you'll be coming out of these squares come about January, February. So it might just be about being a little bit more kind of responsible and having to show up and being there to kind of support and help family until you get out of the square come the turn of the year. Okay? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Sending you and your family lots of good vibes. I hope that he's on the up and up. All right, so let's take Enchanted. What's up, Enchanted? We finally get to speak to each other. I know I missed you last time. And you had questions, I believe, about the eclipses. How are the eclipses going to affect my north and south node during this equinox? My natal north node and my natal south node are going to be feeling it all next year. Okay, I got you. Yeah, we're gonna have the equinox somewhere around really early morning tomorrow. So that's when you guys want to do all your ritual work tomorrow in the morning. So obviously having the sun coming into conjunction with your descendant is about meeting with another person, or, you know, a counselor, a therapist, or a partner, an astrologer. So it's cool that the sun is right there and we're doing the reading today. That's cool. So in regards to the eclipses are very, very close to your nodes. You just recently had your reverse nodal return just this last month. So the first eclipse that's coming in is going to be at 21 degrees of Libra. That will be in your 7th house. So that's all going to be about setting the stage when it comes to relationships and partners and other people. It is obviously very, very close to your natal north node. So it has this cool effect of like working with the past and the future. I always say like the reverse nodal return is a little bit of like the past and the future meet in the present. So sometimes people from the past, clients from the past, relationships from the past come back around to help you in some capacity. Sometimes new people show up, right? Because it's on your north node. I could see this being like the beginning process of there being like an influx of having more clients. So if you're reading tarot for clients and stuff, you might notice there's a lot more people coming in. This is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in the 6th. So it can be about your relationship with those whom you serve. It can be about your healthcare providers. It can be about a pet. This could also be about a relationship that you might have with like a coworker or another person. Honestly, the 6th house for you is like other people's 12th house. And I don't know about you, but like being an astrologer or a tarot reader, like I have learned my lesson. I do not do readings on eclipses. I will not do them anymore. It's just everybody's got so much stuff going on, and you just get inundated with emails and frantic phone calls and text messages like that whole 72-hour period, because shit is happening and people want to get a reading. So I look at this being in your 6th house and I go, you're probably going to have a lot of people that are going to be like, South Node, I'm losing it. Like, are you available? And with Venus in opposition to Saturn, I feel like you're going to be using this eclipse to be like, I'm in ritual, I'm meditating, I'm in nature, I'm doing some cleansing work, like I'm resting. Like there is a sense of wanting to be in your sacred space. And generally when Venus is in the 6th house, we feel like there's something out of balance with relationships. So whether it's somebody asking you to do something outside of your schedule, or somebody, you know, asking you to kind of pick up the slack in some way at work, just be mindful that there's going to be something like that that's probably going to come up. The positive is that this eclipse is going to trine your sun, which is the ruler of your 6th house. So it's saying actually it's protecting you in regards to health and daily routine things. And then the second eclipse 2 weeks later will be in Taurus. And that's going to be technically in your 1st house, whole sign 2nd. So that could be like a financial eclipse, some kind of completion, some kind of, resource related thing. And this is going to be conjunct Jupiter. So it might just indicate just, what has been 6 months of like really building on self-esteem, finances, resources. This is an eclipse also that is in direct square with your Mars, which is your chart ruler, and opposition with your moon, right? Here's how I see this. Like, you guys want to think of this eclipse as a closing eclipse. So this is the last of eclipse of a series of eclipses in Scorpio and Taurus. We've been having them since 2021. So for me, I look at this and I go, where have you been learning to charge what you need to charge for your services? Where have you been building on your self-esteem? Where have you been really mindful of, the money that you've been spending in your budgets? Because now the South Node is finally coming into, coming out of your 8th house. So should be making more, feeling more secure. This is a much easier eclipse in my opinion. Both of the eclipses are going to have Venus in its fall. So, that does mean that Venus is not happy, or she's like sick in some way. So it might mean that a lot of the payoff comes, but it's coming because of a lot of work and a lot of service. And so there can be a sense of being like, okay, a very busy 2 weeks post-eclipse, which is kind of leading you to having a little bit more cash in your pocket. But a square to your natal Mars does make me feel like the challenge here, because Mars is your chart ruler, is that you're learning how to go, I'm making money for me. It's not really me working with a group or me collaborating with a friend or me giving, to an organization or like a business or giving them a cut. So I could definitely see this is about more kind of preserving your own resources and not feeling like you have to give something up. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting with those particular eclipses. And then, as you know, for the next year, you're going to start feeling Pluto coming back into conjunction with your Mars, and it will start squaring your moon again. So you're going to be deep in your Pluto-Mars conjunction, which is very powerful considering, Mars rules your chart. And the square to your moon just makes me feel like lots of changes with some of your friendships and some of your networks, especially with women. And it might be about kind of aligning yourself with like new personal goals and like new groups of people. I guess in closing, the second eclipse, you're going to have at least Venus that's going to trine Uranus and your natal Jupiter. So like, actually, I really like the Taurus eclipse for you, for your chart, because I feel like it's very abundant. It's very abundant. So many of the next couple lunations really affect you. Even the full moon in Aries is going to be in conjunction to your Venus. Very interesting. You'll have to let me know how those go, but definitely a little bit easier to navigate, I think, than some of the other charts that I've seen recently. All right, so who else do we have here? We've got Emma, Coco, and then Angie. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. And then let me just read the queue before, because I know there's like a number of people who have been waiting. Outside of the level 3 people, I've got Ashley, Rome, Samira, Dorothy, Austin, Maritza, Robin, Madison, Cassandra. I got all of you guys, okay? So you're here, don't worry. Just keep your ears open. I'll call you when you're coming up. All right, so let's get Emma. Make sure I have, let's see. March 18th. Okay. So Emma says, hey Candace, can I collect my monthly? I'd like to know what the spring equinox is going to be bringing me. That's right. You're on the other side, so you're experiencing spring. So happy almost spring. So we know that equinoxes and solstices are turning points for seasons. So these are powerful points. They're connected to the cardinal signs. So for you, you're going to be experiencing springtime, but this is kind of like the high season for you when it comes to like your career, professional type of things, because Libra is your midheaven, okay? So when you have this particular seasonal change, Sun, Mars, Mercury, eventually Venus, they're all going to be coming through Libra here. So basically for the next 3 months, there's a lot of 10th house. What am I building? What's my responsibility? How is my public image? What's going on with my career? And relationships. Libra is about relationships. Now, in particular, being a Capricorn rising, you should know, or you should feel that your life has like seasons anyway, right? Because you got cardinal points on all 4 sides. The one thing that really piques my interest when I look at this is not only the fact that the South Node is going through, you know, this part of your sky, and it's going to pretty much be there until the new year. You're going to see the South Node come into conjunction with your midheaven. There is a sense of like falling out of sync maybe, or falling out of relationship with certain people because your midheaven is at a 20, so it's definitely about change. It's also going to be about embracing those changes and like where you're willing to find some kind of sense of like inner courage or bravery as Mars comes into conjunction with the South Node. So there's like this like fighting spirit or this very competitive type of spirit that comes through, especially starting right around the 27th of this month. And when Mars touches on the South Node, there is like a little bit of like feelings from the past or feeling a little emotionally charged. This is going to be in early October. And then finally, you're also going to see, actually, hold on a second. This is an interesting day. Mars conjunct the South Node, Sun conjunct Pluto. So October 3rd, some change regarding your professional life or, you know, power struggles maybe in the workplace, because you're going to see Mars also oppose your Jupiter and square Pluto. So this is a day where there's going to be like a need to just take a breath before kind of, you know, getting flustered with anyone, especially with the Sun conjunct Pluto. And then you're going to have a solar eclipse right on your midheaven. Holy smokes. So, you know, once again, angles of the chart. So having a solar eclipse, new opportunities being planted midheaven in regards to the destiny, in regards to your career and your public relationships, ruled by Venus, and Venus is conjunct Juno. Emma, are you looking to make a job change and or are you single? Because Venus is going to be conjunct Juno. That can be an indication that it's getting ready to bring in a very significant partnership. And if you're in a partnership, it can be about a dramatic change or a shift to your partnership. I remember it was maybe 3, almost 4 years ago. I had a solar eclipse right on my midheaven, just like this. And I was like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Like, I thought it was all about my career. That's really what I thought. And then I realized 6 months down the road, it was more about the ruling planet of that house for me. So when I look at your ruler, Venus is in the 3rd house and Saturn is coming into conjunction. So I'm wondering, is this going to be about having a serious conversation with somebody at work? Is this going to be about signing a contract? Is this going to be about you making a big announcement in regards to work? Especially because Saturn's coming into conjunction with Venus. Now, if you're like wanting to start an online business, if you're wanting to launch something, if you're wanting to write some kind of like proposal to somebody, if you're wanting to have a serious conversation with someone, I do think that this might be prompted, but Venus in the 3rd out of 4 makes me wonder if it's going to be about you doing some kind of work or writing from home, or something that could be like more artistic or creative. But that might emerge basically within 6 months of this particular eclipse. It could also be a move. That's possible as well. But this will become a full moon in the spring when we have the full moon, which will be in Aries. Okay, so you'll have to stay tuned and see what happens when that turns into a full moon. Excuse me, a full moon in Libra. The sun will be in Aries. Okay, and I'll show that to you because I bet you it's pretty significant. There we go. Yeah. So this will become a full moon in Libra on March 25th, conjunct Pluto. And this is going to be pretty close to your birthday. And this is when Mars is going to conjunct Venus. So I wonder if it is about starting a blog, a website, an online business, or if it's going to be about buying a car, traveling. Could be a serious conversation about a romantic relationship. So I do think that that is going to happen, right? But as always, fresh starts. So if you're focusing on what to look at right now, fresh starts when it comes to your relationship with your career. And I would say this to any Capricorn rising, making peace with being like, we got to maybe let something go on the professional front in order to kind of go deeper into the North Node, which is how do I feel? Where do I live? What's going on with my home? What's going on with my family? Okay. Hopefully that is helpful for you. Thanks for being a supporter. I appreciate it. All right, so let's see. Let's get Coco. All right, Coco. She says, struggling with some depression for a while to the point of trying medication. This last year especially has been very trying for me, both financially and romantically. Wonder if there's any insight. Looking for a balance to feel like myself again. All right, I got you. Pisces rising with your sun in Sag. And your moon is in Capricorn. Man, all that Cap, girl, all that Capricorn, and you got your moon that's sandwiched between Saturn and Venus. You know, it's not unusual to have those kind of Saturnian dips, okay? That does happen, especially with Saturn and Neptune in conjunction to your moon, because the moon can get stopped up, blocked up, kind of cold, right? And I'm not entirely sure like where you're living now, but one of the best remedies for a Capricorn moon is sunlight, even though that might be the last thing that you want. Making sure you get vitamin D, making sure maybe you're also able to kind of make a trip to like an infrared sauna that can help, or you can get like some of those panels. I found they're really great for like muscle therapy. Anytime my little dog pulls something or sprains something, I always put him under the roaster But it's really good for like seasonal blues. Okay, so just some food for thought that can be really helpful. The other reason why this might be going down is you got like Saturn square your sun this year. You know, Saturn's in your 12th house. You're feeling a little bit more kind of isolated and a little bit more reflective. And Neptune, which can also be very sensitive, dissolving, kind of feeling like you're out, you know, on your own at sea, is right on your ascendant and makes you very absorbent. You're like a little sponge with that transit. Here's what I would like you to do pretty regularly, as crazy as this sounds. Like, you need to be soaking your feet. Salt water, getting a good soaking, you know, foot bath, going and getting a regular like pedicure, anything like that. Like, that's what I need you to be doing. Okay, cool. So you're in, okay. Have you been to Wee Spa? That can be wonderful. I don't think they have an infrared, but definitely along those lines. While Neptune's on your ascendant, you're either going to get lost in some of that stuff and you can get kind of mopey, or you can find ways to work with it. And I would say foot reflexology, obviously medication is Neptune, right? I'm never going to shy away from that. But I'm always quick to ask my Capricorn stellium people, like, are you depressed or are you not getting the minerals that you need? You'd be pretty surprised what some magnesium, some iron, some copper, some of your, gosh, what is it called? It's like the salmon, I want to say it's like the DHA oils. Send me an email. I can send you a whole list. Okay, so go onto my website and shoot me an email, and I'll send you a whole list of the stuff that correlates specifically with Capricorn. It sounds silly, but I have had so many of those clients. I have a Capricorn stellium myself. I feel like if it wasn't for regularly taking those and like forcing myself to occasionally go and be out in the sun, I would have some of the same issues. You do have a couple things working in your favor. You know, Neptune on your ascendant, it is coming into a sextile with Pluto. So that does mean that you can transcend a lot of this stuff with powerful friends, people who are coming together and like doing the work and really focusing also on networking and community. You also have this coming into a sextile with both Jupiter and Uranus. You're going to see this more next year in your third house, which could be things like sound healing, vibrational healing, grounding, crystals, going for walks, working with Bach essences, aromatherapy. You know, these things can all really, really, really help. And when you start working with the sextiles and stuff, you know, things can get a little bit easier. If you're opting for medication, look, you got to do what you got to do. You know, Uranus has been in an opposition to your Mars, and I would say in the 2nd and the 8th house, it can have a direct impact on your sex drive. I don't know if that's important to you, but that can have an effect there. And you're also seeing that both Jupiter and Uranus are squaring your nodes right now technically in the 2nd house. So it might be this feeling of like needing a physical breakthrough, needing a change with your resources, needing to kind of finally evolve in some way. The 2nd house is talent. It's where you develop skills, right? Taurus is about kind of working consistently at something. And I'm wondering if this is both a combination of your whole sign 3rd with learning and your Placidus 2nd house of investing in something that's going to be like, I'm learning a skill that makes me feel better, but it's also something that I really like to do, and it may materialize and kind of turn into something that you end up doing pretty regularly. So I don't know what that's going to be. Like, sometimes the 2nd house is working with flowers. Sometimes it's working with herbs. Sometimes it's making perfume. I've also seen people here make crystal jewelry. But like you, I'm born in 89 as well. And I'm having, I've had Uranus in a square to the nodes this last year. And I'm feeling the Jupiter square. And I keep looking at spring of 2024 going like, what is going to happen? Am I going to self-combust? Something's going to go down when these two planets square the nodes, because it means that you need to integrate something in order to get to your north node. Well, technically your north node's in the 12th. This square is basically saying you need a pressure release from all of this pent up energy in your body. And you need to be in nature. You need to be grounding, apparently, because it's Taurus. But it also might be a breakthrough with your finances. Okay. The relationship stuff is stemming, I think, mostly from the fact that while Neptune is on your ascendant, it's in opposition to your descendant. So there's a lot of like, people aren't understanding me. I'm not getting what I need. You know, there's problems with them. And you've also got Neptune that's kind of been in a square to Mercury, which rules your 7th house. What you will realize over the next 2 years is as Saturn comes into conjunction with your ascendant and also Neptune, and it squares your Mercury, you're going to realize, like, I know this sounds kind of silly. You're going to be like, I need somebody who's evolved. They need to be well-traveled. They need to have life experience. They need to be, you know, professional. They need to be grown. And also somebody who's not Peter Pan, or somebody who's not, you know, just kind of like out to lunch. And you're going to go, if I'm going to be in a relationship dynamic where somebody's making me feel alone, I'm going to opt to be alone. Because the square will mean that you're going to go, I would rather, you know, have my space rather than take up time with somebody who doesn't know what they want. And you'll start to really appreciate and love the time that you have with yourself, and you'll be very particular about what you give to other people, if that makes sense. Part of it's you got Mercury kind of, you know, in a sign where it does not function as well, and you've got Mercury that does square the ascendant and the descendant. Technically, by whole sign terms, you know, Mercury in the whole sign 10th means you meet them as you're getting older, after 30. You might meet them through some kind of change in your career. In the 9th house, I think I'm wondering if like Saturn and Neptune start squaring Mercury and you get restless and you're like, I'm traveling more, or I want to learn a new language because I want to visit this country, and it prompts you to suddenly meet someone else. But you got a couple indications here that you might be with a foreigner. Mercury in the 9th, Mercury at 21. You do kind of start to have a slight Mercury opposition from your IC. So yeah, I do think that perhaps there's going to be a connection with somebody who might be somewhere else, or you might meet them whilst traveling or something like that. But I do see the financial stuff having a breakthrough, and I think it's going to be because some things that you're creating. So I see that you're making lunar candles and you're like big on scents and stuff, but I wonder, like, is this something that you have a breakthrough with? 2nd house is like fairs. So I would say like taking this to like craft fairs, farmers markets, local fairs, selling it locally, like that can be something that can be a big breakthrough for you. And I would be incorporating, if you can use actual like herbs on top, or like crushed up candles or other things that are sparkly. Jupiter, Uranus is kind of sparkly. That's going to attract people. But I see this getting easier, but it's going to be about another year and a half before Saturn's on your ascendant. So you will be learning how to kind of make peace with the time that you have on your own. And I would just say, once again, 12th house, meditation and a regular kind of PM routine is very, very important here. Yeah, the Jupiter Ceres Chiron in opposition to all of this Capricorn. Does depression run in your family? Or do you have a mom that is not so great about expressing emotions or communicating emotions or talking about things? And did you grow up observing her just kind of like working through it? Just wondering, because the emotional, I mean, Moon and Capricorn in general, but Moon and Capricorn in the 10th, Saturn in the 10th, conjunct Neptune and Uranus, like, you know, that's like a really kind of like strong, like mother figure who's, yeah, like a boss. And so what you're learning is that doesn't work for you, right? The opposition to Chiron and Ceres and Jupiter is, no, it doesn't work for me. This is also learning about like food being medicine, Chiron. All that Cancer in the 4th house is talking about like needing the nurturing, needing the softness, needing to kind of be that soft, maternal person for you. So you learn that you don't just have to kind of camouflage or, you know, put up your wall when it comes to your emotions. But everybody who I've ever known who has a Capricorn moon, beneath the facade, there's emotions in there. You guys are not dead inside. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Definitely check out some of that stuff. And if you send me an email, I'll send you a whole list of the vitamins and mineral supplements that I would recommend. I have a whole list for Capricorn placements. got your degrees in the culinary arts. That's amazing. That is your medicine. Even if you're not using it, Sirius conjunct Jupiter, great nurturers, feeding people, right? As a means of healing. All right, so we've got Angie. You're welcome. Let me see here. Trying to remember Angie. Let's see. Angie, are you here? I don't know where that came from. Maybe you, oh, you know what? You signed up on here. That's where it was. Angie Beers. Let me pull you up. Nope, I gotta add you really quick. No, this is a different Angie. All right, so April 21st, 1971. At least I think so. Oh, no, never mind. So, yeah, it's the same person. Sorry about that. You had a different last name. I didn't catch that. Okay, so we got you. Sorry. I'm just going off of PayPal. All right, so we got you. I saw on here, Claudia, are you still here? Claudia SM. Oh, just married. Okay, because I was like, this is a different last name. All right, Claudia, if you hear me, just send me a message because I saw you pop in there, but I didn't see your comment till just now, but I know you're level 3 and I haven't caught you recently. So if you have a question, let me know, okay? All right. With that said, now we're going to move on to our list. So we've got Ashley, Rome, and Samira. You guys are all up next. All right, so let's get Ashley up here. As always, thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. All right, Ashley says June 21st, 1985, 4:53 p.m. in Omaha. I take care of my elderly mother who has dementia. We're waiting for a final decision regarding a lawsuit. We have to determine whether to renew our current lease, and I'm not sure if I should change my job. With that being said, I want to know about any significant changes that might occur over the next 6 months. All right, well, thank you for your question. So, a couple things. First things first, Saturn in this next year, okay? Saturn is going to continue to move through Pisces, and it's going to come into right along your 4th house cusp, and it's going to oppose your moon. This tells me that you're going to be feeling the burden of being in a situation where you're having to choose between your role or your identity out in the world in regards to your career and the need for you to be there to help and to assist like a mother related figure. Okay. So as soon as Saturn starts coming to like 15, 16, 17 degrees, you're going to be feeling this big time. This is going to start up April of 2024, and you're going to be feeling it, you know, through about August until Saturn comes out of the opposition, and then it'll come back one more time, and that'll be at the beginning of 2025. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is so you know there is going to be a sense of being like, okay, I'm going to make the sacrifice, maybe not. Okay, well, now it's time for me to make that sacrifice. So it does kind of feel as if you're kind of in limbo for a little bit, okay? Obviously, your moon's also at 18 degrees. So with moon being at 18 degrees, until, you know, Saturn comes up there, there is a possibility, because this deals with health, that there can be more things going on in regards to your mom's health that's requiring even more of your time. Dementia, I see a lot of like Saturn-Neptune conjunctions, especially in Pisces. So I don't know where she's at in terms of her like diagnosis, but you can see that it potentially, according to your chart, can really be progressing. What's going to be happening also is that you're going to be seeing Saturn, and its transit will be squaring your Venus and your Chiron. So it's going to be bringing up issues revolving around cost of living and potentially going back and forth, maybe with like a support or what somebody owes you. Saturn's going to be like stuck in a grand mutable cross off and on all next year. Here's my advice. Until you physically have to make a move, I mean, I don't know your situation, but just looking at the transits, like I wouldn't yet. I can tell you there's going to be a Mercury retrograde that's going to be taking place in your first house. That will be in mid-December. That's likely going to give you some indication of like what direction you could or should be going in. And I wouldn't move until after you're, you know, done with that period. So that's going to become the new year. And then another option is going to be when like the Sun and Mercury and Saturn are all coming into conjunction in your third house. And this would be a better time for like moving. I think this is going to be like late February 2024 in my mind. So if the question is like, do I make the change now or do, you know, I wait? If this were me, like I would maintain your job and I would wait until you start having some of these oppositions that are more likely to put the pressure on you to be like, okay, now we got to make a change, right? Hey, Madison, it's going to be like at least an hour because you're the second to last, so it's going to be a little bit. So in my opinion, Ashley, I would definitely wait. I just saw that you said she's a Pisces rising. So, you know, something to take into consideration is that, you know, the eclipses are going to be starting in Pisces next year with the North Node being in Pisces and Saturn and Neptune all kind of being involved. You may be looking at her needing more and more care. Okay, so I'm not a doctor, but just thinking about that being in her first house, if she's already having some of those challenges, are you planning on staying with her the whole time, or do you guys have a plan where you're talking about, you know, transitioning her into a space where she can get more one-on-one help? Have you discussed that with the rest of your family? When I look at your chart, I mean, Jupiter is the ruler, and Jupiter and Uranus are eventually going to come into a conjunction in the spring. So I think about the transits that you're going to have in February going into March. So you may move then, and then there can be like a new job or a new like location or space that you're kind of working in next spring. I think you can delay this, to be honest with you. I don't think it needs to be something that happens right now. You've also had a Mercury retrograde here recently, the last month. And the retrograde looks like it's been tricky because it's been at work and it's been in a square to your 7th, which is about relationship with other people, and in opposition to the 4th. Do you have anybody else who's helping you with taking care of your mom? Because usually the Chiron Uranus opposition is either challenges in relationships, or this can represent some kind of challenge in regards to a relationship with a sibling. She doesn't want that. She's also a Sag rising. I work from home, so that's good news. Okay, cool. Yeah, so like honestly, yeah, if you can wait, trust me on this, I would wait until you start having Saturn come out of a square with your ascendant, which is not going to be until the new year. That alone would be enough for me to be like, I would wait. But then I factor a Mercury retrograde where you might change your mind about a living situation, Saturn opposing your moon, and then you're going to need to be there more. Yeah, they don't do much. And that's the other thing is that, you know, I'm not telling you what to do, but part of Saturn coming into the later degrees of Pisces, squaring Uranus and also squaring Venus and opposing your moon means that there's going to be new work schedules, there's going to be new staff, new things going on at work, you're going to be very busy. And as soon as these planets in like the end of March start coming into a square, I could see you being on, you know, on the phone with siblings and other people being like, when are you going to visit mom? Or, you know, like, this is a lot for me. You know, I need some assistance. Like, communication with siblings or other relatives is really going to kind of be highlighted there. Big time. What will be working in your favor is the fact that Saturn's going to trine your South Node. So it's going to help you have some kind of sense of like peace at home. And you're kind of clearing out some old karmic debt, South Node Saturn in Scorpio, for helping take care of other people in need. And you also are going to have Jupiter sitting on your North Node all year long into next year. So there is going to be nothing but work with this schedule. Service, right? In Taurus, I think of, you know, like making sure that, you know, food is made and, you know, supplements are there, medication is being taken. That seems to be the focus. But Jupiter on the North Node is also about your health and your routine and your habits. So it's about making sure that you're finding time for that as well. This is ruled by Venus, and you have Venus in the 7th. So it's about kind of getting things on a schedule so that way you feel consistent with your routine outside of work and helping take care of mom. And then you'll see next year as Jupiter goes into the 7th, it opens the door for relationships and somebody who needs to be understanding of your home schedule. I like that Jupiter on your North Node all year. That's great. I don't know if you're aware of this, but you're in the final moments of your Pluto transits. Pluto is in Capricorn right now. It's in your 2nd house of money and resources. It's been in opposition to your Mars. So there's been a lot of back and forth about how you're handling money and resources, and you're having to help somebody else manage their cost of living, Cancer. Probably dealing with like insurance companies and going back and forth and managing somebody else's money. I'm going to assume, you know, mom's finances. You know, Pluto Mars represents some kind of stress or power struggles. And Mars is very emotional. And so it might be challenging for you to be going through all the motions and like not feeling scared or like angry or upset. And Pluto is now in opposition to your sun. So this is about challenges revolving around moving house, moving home, you know, overcoming fears of death of a parent, grief, you know, over also not feeling like you have the support of like a father figure. It's a very difficult transit. Your chart is not for the faint of heart, my dear. You're pretty much an honorary Scorpio with that South Node Saturn in the 12th and Mars and the Sun in the 8th. I mean, the good news is that you're coming out of this opposition, but usually with the Pluto in opposition to the Sun in Cancer, I've seen a lot of people go through some really difficult and dramatic transformations at home, which ultimately leads you to a better situation. And this is about not letting other people, like, you know, allow you to feel afraid or pinned down or, you know, manipulated. I would go and learn about transit Pluto in opposition to your Sun. It's going to start to come out of that opposition in the new year. So you'll get a little bit of a reprieve, and then it'll come back briefly again. And that's going to be the end of September into the new year. And then 2025, you're about done. Okay. But yeah, see how you're feeling. You might change your mind about the living situation in December. If you can push it to February, March, that would be better. Yeah, I have a couple friends who are Cancer suns who are going through that, and all of them have been like, oh man, yeah, dealing with aging parents, dealing with haunted houses, dealing with like emotional breakdowns. That's a very difficult transit. But you're going to see on the other side of this, like the next 2 years, as Saturn starts trining your sun and also your natal Saturn. 2025, you're supposed to have some kind of house or some kind of home, and there's going to be more stability, and you're going to realize that you've like worked really hard and it's been emotional, but you have something solid that's like yours. Hopefully that's helpful. Wishing you and your family all the best. We've got Rome. We've got Rome, and then we've got, who else? Samira and Dorothy. You're welcome. All right, Rome, he's in Aries rising, Sun in Virgo, Moon in Cancer, Moon in Virgo. Sun and Moon in Virgo. Hello. I was looking at your North Node. All right. So when you send your information, I need to know where you were born. All right. So let's look at his question. Okay, I've got two options. I moved to Texas and I work at DoorDash, or I moved to Florida and sell solar panels. I tried to do the solar before. It didn't go well. What do you think would be most successful? What I should do? I keep having things fall apart and I'm working hard. I'm not getting anywhere. I don't want to waste any more of my time. All right, well, let's talk about it. So for starters, happy belated birthday. Let's see here. You are now 41, so you're in a Virgo 6th house year, which means you're focusing on your 6th house themes, which is work, habits, and routine. So you're going to be paying attention to Mercury transits this year, okay? That's going to be really important. You're going to see Mercury retrograde in Sag Capricorn mid-December. You're going to see another one that's going to take place in the spring in Aries, and then you're going to see another one that's going to take place in the summer in Leo, okay? That's when things kind of get set up. But what is the annual perfection year 6? Work, routine, habits, location. And this is ruled by Mercury. And your natal Mercury is in the 6th. So it's about the relationships that you have with other people, coworkers, and work, and finding the balance in romantic relationships. So you're asking me which one would be better. Well, you just came out of a Mercury retrograde in your 6th house where you are going back and forth about 2 potential jobs. Mercury went retrograde over what appears to be close to your moon and Venus. So it's like, do you return back to a place that you used to live and take a job? Or do you Mercury trine all these planets in the 2nd house, take a job where you know you can make more money pretty quickly involving food? So it makes sense to me that you have these 2 different things going on. Personally, I want you to keep your eyes out for this mid-October eclipse. There's going to be a solar eclipse right on your Saturn at 21 degrees of Libra. And solar eclipses are about new beginnings. So it's basically saying it's setting the stage for relationships that you're going to have with people that you work with. Okay, so romantic relationships too, but relationships in general, clients, people that you can kind of help. When I think of like solar or just like energy related things, I mean, Jupiter and Uranus coming closer and closer together. Come next year, people are going to realize the value of solar panels, the value of solar energy, because we're going to be seeing grid issues, things that are not going to be consistent. And I do think that ultimately that can be lucrative down the road. Right now, if you're looking to make money, and if you're open to doing something temporarily, I feel like it's better that you're doing something temporary. And I also feel inclined to tell you, like, until Saturn gets out of this opposition with your moon is in the 4th house of where you work and how you feel. And Saturn is in the 12th house of like isolation. there is this feeling of not feeling settled until the new year because Saturn's at a 4. So it's feeling like you're living on your own, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and you're having to make some sacrifices in order to figure out, consistent work. I know that by the time you get to the new year, you've got something really revving up work-wise. Like you're going to have Mars, Mercury, the sun all go into your 10th house. Like you're going to be super busy. And all of these planets will trine the second house, which could be food and, delivering food to people. Mercury is about movement. And it's also going to be trining your 6th house, which is being of service and tech and digital stuff. So both of these things work essentially. Like they both make sense to me. What is going to make you the most money immediately? I think you need to be prepared that if you're going to go the direction of doing the solar panels, it can be a slow burn up until you're getting to about this time. And then you might notice that something is really kind of like ramping up and it's starting to pay off. Where do I think you're going to see more immediate gratification and money that can be made? Probably, going and doing the food delivery and staying open to another job, which may present itself come closer to the beginning of the year. And then you realize, okay, I can take that job and I can segue and I've got money in the midterm because, you're going to see Jupiter's going to go direct in the new year. So you're going to feel like you have more freedom financially to be able to travel and get around and do the things that you want. So that may be a good option in doing something temporarily rather than packing everything up, going to Florida, going back to where you were, realizing, oh, this isn't what I want to do, and then trying to find the next big thing. I don't really think that that's how this works. I think that you're supposed to be kind of keeping things flexible right now before finally kind of making a segue and making a jump, which is going to be, I think, more permanent after you're coming out of the opposition. And even still next year, Saturn, which rules career, is going to oppose Venus. So then you're going to be in a situation where you're like, well, I've got a really good thing going on work-wise, but, I'm living somewhere that's further away from a potential relationship, right? So there might be like a sense of you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. It'll pass. But I feel like your best bet for finding a better paying job that's something that you probably really like and that will stick will be that mid-December through January period. And then you're going to see planets start coming into your 2nd house. You're going to start seeing the South Node coming into conjunction with Mercury, which means somehow through some kind of change that you're having at work, you're going to have a client-based business. You may also meet somebody through work as well. So when I put all the pieces together, I don't feel comfortable sending you on a wild goose chase and going to Florida personally. I don't pull these up very often, but let's check this out really quick. So, I'm not basing it off of this. When I do the astrocartography, I also would want to look at like the relocated chart. You don't really have too much going through Florida. It's kind of like neutral zone, right? You've got a sun line that's not close enough. You've got a Vesta line that's not enough for me to send you there. I don't know where you were considering going in Texas, but I feel like at least your sun line, which is 6th house, service, deliveries, right? Helping people. You've got a nice sun line that pretty much goes from like Tucson to El Paso, San Antonio, all through here through Texas. So your sun line is going to activate, your 6th house sun, which could bring work. Okay. It's going to be busy, but it's going to bring work. And then eventually, I think about like your Jupiter, Uranus stuff where, could you stay somewhere down here and do work? Yeah, but you may find something that's along your Jupiter line that you end up kind of traveling to or ends up bringing you some kind of business up here down the road. That is possible, right? Just food for thought. I just wanted to pull that up just to see if there was any kind of connection between Texas versus Florida. But, like obviously, you got a lot more kind of going through Texas. Let's see. Oop. I had this set on the nodes, sorry. Trying to look at your solar return really quick. Yeah, I mean, you're going to live somewhere else next year, right around the spring of next year. But you've got your Saturn on the ascendant, so it looks like you're kind of hanging tight maybe until, you know, trying to stay flexible. It could be really all the way up until about maybe February, March. Still very much a relationship year, but this is like clients and stuff. So, you know, all of your 6th house is moving to the 7th, servicing other people. And Uranus and Jupiter in the 3rd. See, this is where it's kind of like saying like during the fixed months. So, you know, August, November, February, May, these are going to be the months where you're going to see potential changes in regards to like home or work. And the North Node in the 1st house, so you're putting an emphasis on like really building your own resources in this next year, ruled by Mars, and Mars is in the 12th. Looking at this, you know, like I said, December, you're going to see other job opportunities. Keep it flexible, at least until you get to the end of the year. Then if you have something else that pops up, then you can make a change. But at least doing that type of work, it can let you go anywhere. But yeah, Texas is going to be a better option for you for right now. It may not sound like the most ideal, but I think it's going to cost less and be easier and help you kind of bring in more resources in the long run. Yeah, interesting chart that you have for this year. There's a lot of like having certain things at a distance. And even though you're going to have lots of opportunity for relationship, you're really focusing on building yourself first between now and the new year. And then more of the relationship stuff will hit next year. But that Jupiter-Uranus in the 3rd makes me feel like you're learning something, you're traveling something, and relocating into like a much more comfortable situation in 2024. Good luck. Let me know how Texas goes. I hope it goes well. Let's see. All right, who else do I have? All right, so we have Samira. Samira says, I would like to know about my career and the next possibility of when I could get a job. All right, so Samira, I've got you here. January 22nd, 98. And that was at 12:20. All right, so you're a Taurus rising, Sun in Aquarius, Moon in Scorpio. Well, you got some stuff happening, girl. You've had Pluto in conjunction to your Neptune really for this last several months. So there's a lot of changing and things transforming in regards to your vision when it comes to your career. Pluto Neptune is interesting because it's about totally, I think, waking up. It can be about waking up and becoming more realistic about work, Capricorn. Technically, this is like taking place in your whole sign 9th. So it can be about questions revolving around education, your beliefs when it comes to your career, maybe opportunities for work in another country that can be taking place. But the truth is like you've got a lot going on here. Pluto is going to wake up pretty soon from his retrograde, come back into conjunction with Neptune. So that can be a dramatic turning point, especially at 29 degrees. Around 22nd of December. And then you're going to have Pluto come into conjunction with your Sun. I'm wondering what it is that you do for work, and is it potentially somehow going to change based off of where you're living? because the sun is your whole sign fourth house ruler. This can also be about having some major like significant breakthrough in January and February, as this conjunction is setting up right around your birthday, and it's a huge transformation of your career and how you express yourself creatively. Could it be your own business? Maybe. Could it be about you working in the arts or performance or something creative? Possibly. Anybody who's got this many planets in the 10th house, it's a very Saturnian signature, having a ton of planets in Aquarius, but also in the 10th house, and it's going to be about the future. So with Sun conjunct Uranus, it means that you want to do something different, or you want to do something that's innovative, or you need to work with a group, or it needs to be technology related, or something in regards to like the future of some kind. In terms of getting a job, being employed, making money, couple transits that are worth mentioning. One is going to be the fact that you do have a solar eclipse that's setting up in your 6th house, which can be actually starting the process of getting you ready to be in like a working space. So that's going to start right around October 14th. The other way of looking at this is like, this is about habits and routine. It is about health. It is about balance. I've seen a number of Taurus risings with these eclipses in the 1st and also the 6th house that are having like health related things. So you want to be paying attention to that. Technically, Saturn rules your Placidus 10th. So I'm looking for aspects involving Saturn. So during this eclipse, Mars will trine Saturn. So it does seem like you are maybe meeting with people, connecting with people, talking about potentially taking a position. Venus is in opposition, so it makes me feel like you can be looking at jobs, but I don't know if these are like the end-all be-all positions that you might take. You're also going to have another period when Mars gets into Capricorn, and it'll be going into your 10th house, and it'll be exalted. And this is going to be right around the end of January 2024, when Mars and Venus and Pluto all come together. So end of January, beginning of February. That's interesting because your Venus, other people are Mars, and you're going to have Mercury on your Sun. So I would say end of January, beginning of February makes me feel like that could be a bigger job, a bigger position, something that you love more, working for a bigger company. And like, look, like I think you could very easily get a job offer with the eclipse you're going to have mid-October. That eclipse is going to trine Jupiter. So it's going to be like, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to work with this group of people? You might feel like you have to feel it out between now and then. Is it possible that you take a job and then you like transfer to another department? Maybe. But I'm more curious about what's setting up for you at the beginning of February, because that's a very big turning point. Because you're going to have Pluto at the top of your chart, square your ascendant, Mars and Venus coming into conjunction. What kind of jobs are you applying for? What's your background in? And then in terms of like, money, Jupiter eventually will come into your 2nd house next year. So I do see there being resources, but Jupiter's a little fickle when it's in Gemini. There might be a sense of doing this and doing that. So there might be two things. You're going to hear as an Aquarius that this is in your 5th house. So it might be about more creative endeavors that start popping up next summer. Currently working in nonprofit. So maybe that's the Saturn coming into your 12th house. Maybe that's Pluto on your Neptune. I don't know. But I definitely feel like there's something to be said about the eclipses in your 6th house, because those are going to keep coming and they're going to keep trining your 10th house. So even like next spring, this one around the end of March, that's going to trine your Sun Uranus, right? So there's lots of 6th house energy that's going to keep setting this up. I would just say be prepared. There might be changes with teams and different departments and different schedules and things like that are coming up. You're going to start seeing that the North and the South Node are going to be squaring your Venus pretty soon, which could have you feeling like you're asking yourself, okay, do I need some kind of further training? You know, like, do I need to go in a different direction? Do I have the background and the experience for what I'm doing? Because Venus is about opening up to something, and Venus rules your chart. I also wonder if this is going to present you with opportunities for jobs working with international companies, or maybe something that might be further away from home if you were considering like relocating, looking to be a program coordinator. Well, you would do really well with that. I mean, especially like nonprofit and like social stuff, like events and galas and things like that with like your Sun, Neptune, Uranus in the 10th house. Fundraising could be another thing because you got Venus right on the midheaven, but your Venus is retrograde. So that's can be kind of challenging when Venus rules your chart, because it does tell me as Venus retrogrades back into conjunction with Mercury that you're going to realize after working for a couple of different companies that you're going to be like, I want to work for people who are not just out to make a profit. I want to work for people who actually want to help people. And this might be also about like working with older individuals, Capricorn. Really what caught my eye though was that eclipse that's going to be conjunct your Juno. Where is it? This one. You're going to have an eclipse in spring of 24 where you're going to have a lunar eclipse in Libra at 5 right on your Juno. So that's going to be about some kind of like partnership coming to fruition. And you got to be really careful with the Pluto transits, because it's also going to be, as much as I hate to say it, like a lot about realizing some companies are like corrupt. And when the Pluto hits your sun, you're going to go through a huge transformation of the way that you look at work and like your purpose and like how much you want to make and what you can achieve. You might have a breakthrough and you get like a really significant salary boost next year. But I feel like it's going to open something up and it's going to make you realize even more, like, I want to be working with younger people. I want to be working with people who are, you know, going to be about the children and helping children in the future, and something about groups that are going to deal with kids, because that's what this is. And also celebrities or like stars, people who are well known, that might be starting to come through in 2025 as well. Somebody made a comment about the Lilith return. I'm more interested in the fact that, you know, Lilith needs to be activated. Like the returns will do things, but Lilith needs to be activated with another planet. So maybe when we see Pluto trine Lilith and we start seeing Jupiter trine Lilith, you know, it can be stuff working with like women or women in the arts, right? Or like fundraisers and stuff for, you know, celebrities, performers, people who come in that want to help, or something relating to women's rights, women's health. Yeah. But I would say the big one, or the big breakthrough, even though something may come between now and November, February of next year. That's where you want to really be paying attention. Hopefully that's helpful. Good luck. Good luck with the job search. All right, so we've got Dorothy, Austin, and Maritza. You guys are next. Let me plug in a couple charts, because now I'm to the point where, yeah, now I got to put these charts in, guys. So just give me 1 second. I will put in the last 6 or so people. Can you send me your birth information? I don't have it in here. January 20th, 99. Robin, are you here? Robin? 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 All right, we will continue to see if Robin comes through. I need that info to do your reading. I don't think I have you. Yeah, no, I don't. Okay. All right, so let's keep it going. Let's take Dorothy, and then we'll have Austin and Maritza. All right, so Dorothy, you are April 16th, 85, 8:28 a.m. Okay. My question is, should I move in the next few months for work or hold off? Thanks. Moving for work. All right, so you're a Gemini rising, your sun is in Aries, and your moon is in Pisces. Good question. I feel like that has been the dilemma for a lot of Gemini risings recently, because Mercury, your chart ruler, which deals with changes, options, movement, has been going retrograde in your fourth house. And it's been, do I move? Do I not? There's been a bit of like a flip-flopping going on here. That has been in opposition to your moon in the 10th, which means you're like, okay, me moving, you know, the funds and also stuff relating to work. And it's been in a square to your ascendant and your descendant. So it hasn't quite been the time yet. And even though you're a Gemini rising, part of the Venus retrograde has also been in your second house. So it has not been the time to move. When would a move be easier? Well, a move would be easier when you've got some positive action going on in your third house. So technically, by Placidus terms, that's the moon. Mercury's still in opposition to your moon. You're going to see a time where Mars will start trining your moon, okay? And that'll be in November, where I could see a move being more feasible, especially with the sun and Mars. Mid-November, trine the moon. Another option will be after, let's see, the new year. And you can wait and see how things are kind of shaken out at work. and maybe wait for Mars to come into conjunction with your moon right around April of 2024. That's the other option. And then 3, you can wait until exalted Mars comes into conjunction with your sun. And that's going to be closer to the beginning of June of 2024. Here's what I feel inclined to tell you, okay? Like, I'm a little iffy about you moving and then feeling like you're in a situation where because of a higher cost of living, you feel like you're kind of trapped in a job situation, or you're having to live somewhere because it's close to work. Something like that can be kind of going on. Typically, when the moon and Saturn are in conjunction, we're not as emotionally fulfilled with our home, our relationships, things like that. And so I don't want to see you take on something that you're like, okay, I can only afford it if I have one particular kind of job. If this were me, number one, if you've had some back and forth and you have felt like it's not the right time or something's telling you not to do it, I would wait. Because it looks like that's possibly the feeling that you've been getting with both Mercury and Venus retrograde in your 4th house. And you're like, I need to wait until it's like a better time, or I need to wait until, some things happen at work first and then I can make a move. That's just my opinion. And also the transits next year are much better because you're going to have Saturn coming into conjunction with your moon. So you might make a much more permanent decision about where you're living. You're going to have Jupiter on your ascendant, which could be a fresh start. You're going to have Mars coming into contact with your sun. If this were me, I would say you want to pick one of the 2 time periods that I gave you for the new year. It's going to be a lot easier than trying to do it this year, because you're going to have everything highlighted. New beginning, Mars conjunct 3rd house of home, Saturn conjunct the moon. I also feel like this could be a situation where you have like a new opportunity at work. And maybe you get a bigger salary, or, maybe you're getting offered a position that you can transfer, or it's going to be in another location. And with that means that there's like a higher salary, but maybe that you're working in a different area, or you have a different schedule. And that would probably really majorly impact your living situation. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. I would wait. And I also think that Jupiter on the ascendant can have you being a little bit more enthusiastic about what the future holds. And so you might be willing to look into some areas that you're not typically open to looking at. Might take you to some new places. And, part of the theme for 2024 is we're going to have Jupiter in a sign where it's kind of like all over the place. There's too many options. And it's going to square Saturn, which is like a little unsure. So I could definitely see you going like, yeah, I'm going to be really selective based off of what's going on out in the world professionally for me. So you're going to be basing this off of your work stuff. And then in opposition to Uranus, oh my goodness, it looks like there's going to be a little bit of going back and forth with another person somewhere else. So I wonder if this is about you meeting someone else who lives in a different place, possibly, if you're not in a relationship. Right? I would start looking into Saturn transit the natal moon, because I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, it's going to be about you looking at work going like, I need a job that, doesn't just barely pay my bills. Like, I need to feel good about the exchange that I'm making, and I don't want to feel mentally or emotionally bogged down at work. Right? But yeah, go for the new year. That's going to be a much easier time to make the move. Hopefully that's helpful. Make sure just hold off. It'll be better then for you to do that. Let us know how it goes. We've got Austin. Hey Candace, things have felt slow. Been away from home, helping my family with odd jobs to get by while the union is on strike. Haven't seen my partner in 2 months due to our living financial situation since your last reading. Have been having trouble finding independent occupation to make me feel more stable. Also leave tomorrow for a week to celebrate my mom's 60th birthday in the Bahamas, a trip we booked before the movie industry was on strike. What do you have for me? Appreciate your advice and your wisdom. I got you. I have your chart. All right, so Austin, Sag rising, Sun in Gemini, Moon in Taurus. Well, with all that Taurus placement, I can understand wanting to have stable employment. I got it. Saturn rules your second house, right? Pluto's retrograding through your second house. You're reevaluating, making big changes in regards to your resources. And Saturn is currently in technically your third. So it's about feeling the financial burden of traveling, third house with family, whole sign fourth, but still making it work. I mean, the truth is like, look, you're coming into your Saturn return in the new year. And Saturn at a 12 is going to be about the emotional or spiritual effects of certain things dissolving, or it can be about releasing certain things. Fourth house whole sign can be the idea of home or where you were living, or it can be about returning back home, relocating, spending time with family. When you see a positive Saturn transit, that's when you're going to see something pick up. And I'm wondering if what's going to happen here when Mars goes into Scorpio and it starts trining your Saturn, that you get word that there is the possibility that you're going to be able to do some work. With a union, Moon-Mars conjunction, trine Saturn. Moon rules other people's resources. This is also going to start trining Mercury. So I'm kind of getting the feeling maybe mid-October there's some light at the end of the tunnel where you're able to return back to a group dynamic. Also, the solar eclipse for you is technically, it's going to be in your 10th house. So it's not in the Placidus 11th, it's in the 10th. So it's going to be like the same kind of horoscope as like Capricorn. But when you have a solar eclipse in the 10th house ruled by Venus, and Venus is in opposition, I wonder if this is about you getting wind that's like, hey, work is back on. Do I have to travel? Do I have to return back to a place? Maybe. Or there is a job that pops up that's further away. Maybe that's the other way of looking at it. That eclipse, though, it's going to squeeze your Venus and your Neptune. So my money is on you getting some kind of answer about what's going on with this union situation in mid-October. And what's going to be interesting is the second eclipse in Taurus for a Sag rising is going to be in the whole sign 6th. So it's about work, completing something in regards to work and service. It's going to be pretty close to your Mars. It takes some time. I go back and forth. It's like I talk to a lot of other astrologers that are like whole sign. And I'm like, yes, when there is a transit in a whole sign chart, you're going to see it. But I feel like Placidus is more accurate. I don't know. What do you guys think? There's 46 people watching. I'm sure somebody has an opinion. I could not look at a natal chart purely with whole sign. I feel like that would make me want to rip my eyeballs out. You can see so much on the cusps degrees of a chart that I feel like you can't not look at the degrees. You have to look at the degrees. When you're doing like chart rectification, like birth time rectification and stuff, like you can look at somebody and tell what degree they are if you know the degrees. Ferrari says Placidus hits way harder. Can somebody screen that on a t-shirt for me? That's hilarious. I love that. Okay, so it's not just me. Because sometimes I'll go on like my Chris Brennan kicks and I'll just like be all about it for like a couple weeks and then I'm just like, I can't do it. Saturn, you want to focus on the third house under the understanding that it still has connections to the fourth. So for example, what is Saturn? Limitation, boundaries. Saturn rules your second house. Financial limitations and boundaries. It's in the third, which means it's the mental blocks revolving around money and whether or not you're going to have what you need. And so it's about money and resources and stability being a mindset and meditating on having the support and the stability that you need so that way you can afford and you're being able to have your own space. Saturn being connected to the 4th house. But it could also be quite literally, you're having to travel back and forth, and you're driving and you're going around and doing odd jobs for your family. Saturn in the 3rd house connected to the 4th. Both. Because they're old fogies. There's a lot of really hardcore, you know, traditional, like Hellenistic astrologers that are like and that's fine. There is something to be said about whole sign. As soon as a planet enters a house per sign, maybe not Placidus, you feel it. You feel it. And eclipses sometimes too, but I don't know. The more that I track transits, the more that I find Placidus is accurate. But my ascendant is 0 degrees, so there. Doesn't matter for me. I'm whole sign either way. I'm just fighting the fight for you guys. Maybe it's a Gemini thing, but why not look at both? You have to look at both, because in this situation, both things resonate for Austin. I think for you, you know, this is the very beginning of your Saturn return. And so what you're going to have to learn when that Saturn return hits, which you're going to have right around here, it's going to be right around March. I'll go as far as saying there's the potential you might move, because you're going to have Mars and Venus there as well. And then you're going to have an eclipse that's going to be in your Placidus 4th. Our Placidus hero. I listened to your Cap and Sag horoscope and reference where the degrees fall. Okay, good. That's what you should be doing. But, you know, you got Saturn square your ascendant at 14 degrees. So it's a Taurus degree. So it's going to be about the effects of moving or traveling and money. Here's an example. If you have a car, you might be looking at this going like, do I need to give up my car? If I do, how am I going to get around? Can I afford my car expenses? That could be a thing. 12 degrees is what's invisible, what goes missing, what has issues, what disappears. Just stay on top of the fluids revolving around your car next year. Both 3rd and 4th house deal with vehicles. Somebody's saying, do Scorpio. We're not doing ascendant readings. We're doing the natal chart readings. But you know, next year you got bigger fish to fry. Saturn square your ascendant, Saturn return, Saturn square your sun. So this is going to be about learning how to balance, right, the square, your freedom, Sagittarius ascendant, where you're living and getting around, and how you think about restriction, Saturn in the 3rd, and a relationship with a partner, 16 degrees in the 7th house. I'm going to let you in on a secret. Okay, you ready, Austin? You want to know what your Saturn return is going to be about? It's going to be about you getting sick and tired of the back and forth, because Saturn squares your sun, and your sun is your partner. 16 degrees is a home. You're going to have an eclipse conjunct your moon the end of October. You guys are going to start talking about living together, being like, why don't we just talk about this in the future? Or would it be easier for us to be in one particular place, both from a financial perspective, Taurus, but also because it's some act of service and because of your schedule. So you guys are going to start talking about this at the end of October. I'm not saying you're going to move in together, but by the time Saturn's coming into a square with your sun, you're going to get to about spring of next year, and you're going to be like, I can't do both, or, you know, I might be giving up my car, or, you know, there might be some change with my transportation, then, you know, how it's going to make it even more challenging to do the back and forth. Yeah, that's what's coming. I have Saturn in the 4th, and I've had Saturn in the 4th make squares to planets in my 7th. Time and time again, when I see that with clients, it's about making the decisions, the hard decisions based off of where you live, Saturn in the 4th, and the relationship energy, planets in the 7th. It always plays out that way. So I personally kind of feel like you'll have to make that decision, and probably depending on where things fall with these eclipses in the fall, when you have a better idea of whether or not the union stuff is coming back, then you can make that choice. That's the square. I'm torn between where my place of work is, 10th house, and my family and their support, and the opposite end of the country. I mean, the truth is like, you know, Jupiter is going to go into your 7th house next year, and you are Jupiter. So by the time Jupiter is in your 7th house, you're going to spend a lot more time with her, and it's going to square Saturn. So it means that you got until about maybe May, June, and there will be a lot more of time with her, and it's going to start squaring Saturn. And then you're going to know that there's time that you're seeing your family, and there's time that you're with your partner, right? Yeah, learn to work with the square. You were born with it. Saturn doesn't deny, he just delays. And so he's trying to delay you from making a definitive decision to X out your family, to move in with your partner. But eventually, I think that that might be something that you end up doing, right? Eventually. Learn how to find the balance between them. And like, look, the Saturn return, I hate to break it to you. You have your progressed lunar return at 27. You have your Saturn return 29 to 30. You feel your Saturn return until you're like 32 or 33. 32. So let's say 29 to 32. You hit 33 and you're like, okay, I'm just now coming out of that shit show. And then you have your Jupiter return, and then you have like your nodal returns. So you got to get to 33. And then you start to kind of realize like, whoa, what was that? And it's teaching you the lesson of Saturn square your sun, which is basically wrap your mind around the idea of being flexible. It's okay to be in limbo. It's okay to move. You don't have to have a defined plan. And then right around the time Saturn and Neptune come into conjunction, and that'll be in 2025, you're going to have a lot more stability, and you'll be kind of like building your dream home space, I would imagine. Good luck. Keep us updated. We've got Maritza. And she wants to know about Mike. 11/10/89, Dalton, Georgia. Let's see. All right, so you got that Aries rising and Sun in Virgo, and your moon is in Leo. Ooh, how have the last few months been with this Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde? Have you been going back and forth in a relationship? So, doesn't ask anything, just Synastry, but I'm just riffing on that because you've had such a significant retrograde here about making decisions about a relationship. I think I can like say this because their birthday is one day before mine, but this person is probably a little bit of a wackadoodle, huh? This is a lot of Scorpio energy. I was born on 11/11/89, so we have the same placements. Scorpio Sun, Mercury, Pluto, and Mars. So they have all their Scorpio all up in your 7th house. Which is what you attract, what you bring in. And they have their Venus in conjunction to your Jupiter, South Node in conjunction to your moon. So it's kind of like karmic, kind of like soul family stuff, you know? South Node moon is like familiar, 5th house, romance, creativity, you know, children, all that stuff. So when you have South Node moon, there is some sense of emotional familiarity. But this is a lot of Mars energy, a lot of Scorpio, moon in Aries. The moon in the 12th house can feel that they're hard to read. Kiki's laughing because she's like, yes, we're all born around the same time. This can be challenging because there can be this feeling of like not always knowing how to read them emotionally. And you guys have Jupiter in opposition to Jupiter, Saturn in conjunction to Jupiter, Juno on the descendant. I mean, some people like that. I find that like synastry works really well when you have planets that are sitting along the ascendant, because they're kind of helping directly, you know, where you're going. And then if you have a bunch of planets on the descendant, they represent the kind of person that you bring in, right? Just food for thought. I also look at this in the form of like having somebody who's got their Mars and their Lilith in conjunction to your Saturn. So they can represent somebody who is more or less like karmic in regards to relationships, heavy karmic stuff if you have Saturn and Scorpio on your descendant. And you've also got their Pluto conjunct your Saturn as well. So there's something going on here in terms of like whether or not you like the intensity, whether or not it's too much for you, whether or not you feel like this is somebody who is representing some of these karmic patterns. I would say Pluto in the 7th house is enough to have an intense connection with relationships in general, but then you throw all that, you know, Scorpio in there. It's up to you if that's something that you feel like works. Definitely that's what you attract. But in terms of like your Venus placements, you guys both have Venus in earth signs, which is nice. There is obviously, you know, Juno is right along the descendant, so that can be great for partnership. The only kind of like question mark I have is about this person having Saturn in conjunction to your Jupiter. You know, maybe it works because you guys both have placements in Capricorn, but Saturn-Jupiter conjunctions can be somebody who's like limiting the positivity or the optimism about the future. And in terms of relationships right now, this is outside of your synastry, but you are going to be seeing that Pluto is going to continue at the top part of your chart to square your ascendant and your descendant, which means you're really adamant about changing and transforming something about your outer, you know, appearance or something about your persona or your public recognition. Pluto is squaring your natal Pluto in Libra, which means you're experiencing kind of like this death and rebirth to your professional life or your status or how people see you. Venus rules your 7th house, and you have Saturn that will be approaching your Venus next year, the opposition to your Venus. So you've got two big transits going on right now that can indicate that there's some changes that are going to be kind of happening with relationships. You've already gone through a number of eclipses in your 7th house. So there can be a sense of, you know, finally completing a lot of that. But now the South Node is moving through Libra in the 6th. And so what I see with eclipses with the South Node in the 6th house, you could listen to your ascendant as Taurus, not just Aries. This can be about flushing out or clearing out old relationships. So I don't know if that's an experience that you're having, but this person right now, we don't know their ascendant because we don't have the time, but with Uranus in opposition to their Sun and their Mercury, they're definitely going through lots of changes in relationships, expansion and contraction in relationships. And it's going to hit a really big turning point next year when Jupiter and Uranus oppose this. I've seen a lot of Scorpios who have a stellium of planets, you know, within the 18 to 23 degree range. Some of them are just recently getting married and getting into relationships. Some of them are like moving and getting out of them. So I'm wondering if this is getting to a point in the relationship between the two of you where, you know, you're looking for taking the next step and whether or not you have somebody who you feel like is willing to do that. But a lot of these Scorpios might feel like their partners, right? Jupiter and Taurus, Uranus and Taurus are resisting change, or they're kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So there can be a sense of feeling like a little bit destabilized. So I wonder if you guys on the same page, basically. The synastry is fine. I don't have an issue with the synastry. You know, he doesn't have any squares to your nodes. So it doesn't mean that he's necessarily pushing you forward. If anything, this is somebody that it's a very intense kind of connection and a relationship with, and it's faintly familiar. And I wonder what's been going on here with the Venus retrograde through his South Node and through all of your planets. Did you guys come to some kind of a realization about what it is that you're looking for so you can move forward? The next eclipse is going to be on your ascendant, so it can be about making decisions that are best for you, and that's going to oppose his Mars. he might be a little testy here in the next month or so. So you've been forewarned. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know. Let me plug in Robin's info, and then we have Madison and Cassandra. I know I saw that here a little bit ago. Where was that? There it is, October 16th, 67. $7:47 p.m. There we go. Robin, did you have a particular question for me? Oh, actually, I put the wrong info. Hold on a second here. That was Ontario. Where was that? There we go. Sorry about that. October 16, 67, 9:47 p.m. And that was in Ontario. Nothing really, just general. When I'll win the lottery. Don't we all want to know that? All right, so you've got Saturn in your 10th house right now. What's going on with your Mercury? Okay, nothing happening there. Oh, so two things. One is you're going to have this eclipse that's going to be pretty darn close to your birthday here, girl. So make a note, obviously a day or two before, but you're going to be feeling this because it's a new moon solar eclipse conjunct your sun. Okay, so this means fresh start. So when you have a birthday that coincides with a solar eclipse, it basically means you're planting fresh new seeds this year. Everything's new. But there can be like this feeling the week leading up that there is some kind of cosmic clearing out that's going on. In your 5th house, you might feel like you want to have more fun. You're feeling more creative. You're feeling more tapped in. It's funny you're asking about the lottery. The 5th house is gambling, games of chance. It just so happens that this particular solar eclipse also is going to be featuring Venus, and it's right around the time of your Venus return. So it can be about the good things that are coming from this might be about your home, having fun with your family. If you have children, spending time with your kids. If you're dating, you know, having a romantic time because it's in your 5th house, or maybe meeting someone. And this eclipse is going to take 6 months to come full circle until it becomes a full moon when the sun is in Aries and the moon is in Libra. And when that full moon hits, it's also going to be right on the cusp of your 5th house and in conjunction to Juno. So I could see that being much more about taking risks and chances with creative collaborations, with romantic partners, you know, having more time for like romance and intimacy, especially going into next year. And then 2, something else that I noticed is that you're also experiencing Pluto square your nodes right now. Now, this has been something that's been kind of hanging around for the better part of like the last year and a half. But when Pluto, the planet of change, regeneration, transmuting pain, letting go, having like a, you know, a regenerative period, this is going to be wrapping up what's been like a 2-year square. In your 8th house, about joint resources, intimacy, letting go. It can be about death, but regeneration of older relatives, Capricorn, your career maybe. This can also be about dealing with like insurance related matters or, you know, the money of a spouse or a partner. 27 is the way that you communicate or talk about resources, documents, paperwork, siblings, like having to talk to people. Has there been like an estate thing going on? Has there been something going on where you've been having to deal with like, like a property or like a will? Have you been, you know, having to move through some kind of tax related situation? Oh, there's David. I thought I saw you earlier. What's up, Kay? Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. And Sandra said, yeah, there has been a nodal return. That has happened here recently as well. And you're going to see that reactivation with the Mars transits. But the 5th house, 8th house, and 11th house are financial houses. This is about what chances we take, what we create, what we give birth to. The 8th house is about the kind of karmic connection to other people, what other people give and take from us. And then the 11th house talks about like what we have at the end of the day and like what our goals are and what we end up kind of being able to share with other people. So something about this solar eclipse with Mars coming into a square with Pluto might just make you feel like a little bit more passionate. It might mean that it's a time when you're really kind of pushing to feel like you can have some breakthroughs in regards to intimacy with other people. Could you play the lottery? Yeah, I think you're going to see more when you see like a Venus-Pluto aspect personally. So I can give you a time that might be a little bit better. Maybe when Venus is coming into a trine with Pluto, right around like the 6th through the 9th of November. And then when Venus is on your sun and you receive a trine maybe from the moon, November 28th-ish, that's another good time as well. Something else that's worth mentioning is you're also getting ready to see that you're going to have Mars stationed direct on your midheaven. Excuse me, not Mars, Saturn. So up here, right there. So Saturn deals with like commitment, persistence, timing, responsibility. You know, for a Gemini rising, it's all about how you're showing up in the world and dealing with bosses or picking a career or being, you know, responsible for something out in the world. And this can be about trying to find your dream job, trying to be of service. It can be about working in places relating to art, to therapy, to hospitals. It really depends on what you do, if you work. But when you see Saturn go direct at 0 degrees, it's about also committing to some kind of like purpose out in the world and that taking shape. That's going to be in early November. So I think about like, you know, like Libras and, you know, Saturn going through Pisces, you're going to hear as a Libra, oh, it's about your daily routine, your consistency. It's about the work that you have with your coworkers, maybe. But for you, it's like the 10th house. So it might be about how you're like managing your time, how much time you're giving to things, and like how much you're feeling like you're able to kind of get done. That's another way of looking at it. And then Saturn will go direct, and it's going to come into an opposition with your Venus. So this is going to be about where you're making commitments out in the world, responsibility for yourself, for a job, for a parent, as a parent. That might feel like it's kind of not taking away from your home base, but I can see you have a lot of planets in your 4th house. So this is someone who's really focused on home, family, private life, the past, property. And as you start to see these planets make oppositions to this, it's like it's kind of pulling you out of that private life and putting you out into your work zone, right? Let me know if you have any questions. And then finally, one other thing. This next full moon that you're going to have, it's going to be like right on your moon. So I don't know if you know anything about lunar return charts, but when you have this full moon on 29th of September 2023, This is going to be in conjunction to your natal Saturn and your moon. And I want you to pay attention because it's going to be bringing up something about where it's not just about you. You need help from other people, or you need to go and spend time with a friend, or you need to be like networking. Obviously, every time you have your lunar return, it comes into conjunction with Saturn, but it's not every lunar return that is actually a full moon. So this is going to feel like it's amplifying the energies of your sun in opposition to the moon and Saturn. So it's about connecting with the group. And so much of your South Node Sun in Libra is about being like, yes, I've done a lot for myself in past lives. I've given to people. I've had romance. I've been creative. Now I'm going to go and do that with other people. So while you're still kind of coming off the high from your nodal return, I think this is a lot about how you can be networking, connecting with other people, being a leader in certain groups as well, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you, Robin. We've got Madison. Madison says, live reading on career or love. Okay. Hey, Kayla. What's going on? How have you been? All right, so let's take a look here, Maddie. We've got Aries rising, Sun in Aquarius, and your moon is in Pisces. Whoa, how is your, oh my goodness, you got Pluto on your sun and Saturn on your moon at the same time. And you're young. Those are some pretty significant transits to have it at your age. Well, first of all, how are you doing? You're probably like, what does this mean? And you have South Node on your Mars. Wowzers. Well, where do I even start? Yeah, that honestly, that kind of makes me want to cry looking at some of these transits. Whenever I see somebody going through like the Pluto Sun transit and they like complain for 20 minutes in an hour session, I'm just like, welcome to my life all of the time. I was born with Pluto conjunct my sun and Saturn in the 4th house. Kind of feels like these transits. No, I'm an astrologer, so I know exactly what it means. Okay, cool. I was going to say. So, you know, I think my mind goes directly to the eclipse that opposed your Mars. I can talk to you. It sounds like I can talk to you about this stuff. So if you lose me at any point, just like let me know. So you've got Saturn in opposition to Mars. Saturn in Aries in the 1st house, which is I learned to take care of and fight for myself. In opposition to Mars, in detriment in Libra in your 7th. It's like there's a lot of learning about your relationship with yourself through other people in this lifetime, right? So as you're going through right now, just the eclipses, I'm not even talking about the Pluto square. As you're going through the eclipses where the South Node is coming into conjunction with your Mars, it's a lot of clearing out where you felt like you need to make sacrifices for other people, right? And so now what's going on is you're getting ready to have like a supercharged Mars return, which can be good because it can mean that it's bringing in karmic relationships with people who are here to help you, people who can counsel you, guide you, talk to you. Like therapists need therapists too, readers need readers too, healers need healers too, right? So, you know, sometimes when the South Node Mars transit happens, even if you have a debilitated Mars, there's like this fighter spirit that comes out. And then the North Node is on your Saturn. So it's kind of just readjusting the balance between, no, I need to focus more on what's best for me, taking care of my body, my needs, learning to communicate, 27, your boundaries with other people. So you're not absorbing other people's stuff. And this could even be about clients. So with that aside, I think about Pluto on your sun off and on, but you know that's going to be another year. And 0 degrees of any particular sign is the most potent. So I wonder, like, are you going to start an astrology group? You know, Are you going to focus on your services, collaborating and working with like group work, right? Aquarius sun in the 11th. Conjunct Neptune, working on the collective, you know, masses that are waking up, and also probably through your Pluto Sun transit, if you have not already, you're probably going to start doing a lot more learning about either, you know, psychology, you know, like Jungian stuff. You might start learning more about evolutionary astrology, right? I'm an astrologer, real estate agent, and bartending pays the bills. Well, yeah, you can do a little bit of everything when you have that much Aquarius. But at the end of the day, you know, Saturn is your 10th house lord. So you know that you will eventually get to either your Saturn 3/4 square, which you already had, or you'll get to your Saturn return, and you'll go, I don't know if I still want to service people anymore. And whether that's, I don't know if I want to counsel people anymore, I don't know if I want to bartend anymore, I don't know if I want to sell houses to people anymore. In theory, real estate's not a bad move for you because you have a 4 on the midheaven, but that could also be working from home, right? Or working intuitively. I think you know, and I think you're aware from the sounds of it, that there is going to be a lot of change that's going to come with your Pluto transits that might totally radically change your direction and your goals in your 11th house. I will tell you probably something cool will happen when Pluto hits your Neptune, and that's when you're going to start kind of like buzzing, and you'll start getting more downloads, and you'll find that you're very tapped in, and you might be able to start doing some like private group work with people. And there might be also like a much more serious program that you enter into with a group of other people relating to astrology or metaphysical studies, right? And then also Neptune conjunct your Jupiter. Wow. Those are some really big transits all at one time. I guess the finale for me would be Saturn conjunct your moon, and where you're taking the time to do the emotional work, making sure you're taking care of your mental health because your moon's at a 6. Like, you know how this goes. A really strong Venus transit will bring opportunities for relationships. So I'm not of the mind that, oh, if you're having a South Node, you know, solar eclipse in the 7th, you're not going to have a relationship. It's just you're going to be hearing from people from the past, or there's going to be people who are going to help you with the next leg of your journey. And sometimes it's like there's people who come in and they're around for a little bit and then they come back later. Like I had these eclipses, you know, 9, 10-ish years ago, and that's when I met my husband, and then we didn't talk for 7, 8 years, and then the eclipses brought him back around. So I'm not going to say that people don't stay. They can stay, but there can be a sense of people coming in to kind of help you get on the path, and then they may come in at a later date. And you know, because you have Venus in Aquarius and Venus conjunct the South Node and Venus conjunct Uranus, that you're not somebody who's easily going to be tied down. Boyfriend and I broke up right before Aries eclipse. He's back now. Yeah. Well, that's the Venus retrograde. It's because Venus has been going retrograde back and forth on your North Node, trying your Saturn. And he probably came back because you put your foot down, to be honest with you. Because the only way partners are going to respond is to you putting your foot down. That's part of your Saturn lesson. You're going to keep learning that over and over. And like learning to tell people where your boundaries are, or when you need space, or when they need to cool it. Because having Mars in your 7th house is kind of like having Aries type of people that you date, which I'm sure you like. But still, it means that they can be fickle, right? Good. Relationship stuff is fine. If somebody comes back around, great. But I think that what you're really going to find is that some of the most powerful transformative things that are happening right now is Pluto conjunct your sun, where I feel inclined to tell you, if you really seriously do want to be an astrologer, you probably won't really know consistently if you're going to stick with it until Saturn starts maybe coming to an opposition with your 7th house. So yeah, do it. But while Pluto's on your sun, go maybe join some astrology associations or some actual groups. Like start interacting with other astrologers. And with Saturn on your moon, which rules your, Saturn rules your 10th house, moon rules your 4th house. This is about doing the emotional and the spiritual work also behind the scenes. And you might have like female relatives that are having some emotional stuff, some health stuff, things like that can be coming up. Hopefully that's helpful for you. That's probably the most intense night chart of the night, to be honest with you. Aquarius, Stellium, Pisces, Sun, Saturn conjunct. So same person, different fonts. It's always funny to see, like, you know, two people who either practice astrology or two people who are like astrologers like talk, because you see them go back and forth and you're like, what the hell are they saying? It's like a different language. And you start talking about progressions and fixed stars and stuff. It's funny. That's how astrologers shake hands. We just show each other our charts. All right, so now we've got Cassandra. You're welcome, Madison. Good luck. All right, so Cassandra is a Sag rising, Sun in Taurus, Moon in Virgo. She says, an update on relationships would be great. Maybe even anything second marriage related. Oof. First one's for love. Second one's for marriage. That's okay. 423.94. Second marriage relations. Okay, so I'm going to assume the first one may not have gone well. South Node Venus series in Taurus, technically connected to your whole sign 6th house. Could that be an indication of separation? Maybe. Maybe it was the double Gemini descendant. Maybe it's Mercury conjunct the Sun. So your second marriage is always your 9th house. Okay. So your 9th house is Virgo, where you have the moon. And you're going to start having eclipses there pretty soon. So you'll hear for Sagittarius rising, it's career related, but Placidus, 9th house. So your 9th house lord is Mercury. Mercury's been back and forth here. And maybe it's gotten you thinking about whether or not there's going to be another relationship that's going to come through. You need to have a strong Mercury transit for relationships in general. So we need to see Mercury, maybe Mercury in the Sun, something going on there. Well, right now the North Node's in conjunction to your Mercury. So it means that you could connect with, maybe talk to somebody who's younger, somebody from the past, somebody who comes to visit you at your home, somebody who your family introduces you to. Any of those things could happen because it's in the 4th house. And I'm thinking about, like, you know, this is obviously down the road, but you're going to start seeing some really interesting transits like next year. This will be when eclipses are happening there in the spring. And this will also be when Jupiter and Uranus come into conjunction with your Venus. So things get kind of interesting then. That can also bring somebody that you meet through work, somebody who's younger. And then you're going to see Jupiter's going to go into Gemini, square your moon, square planets in the 4th house. So the thing that I'm wondering here is that, are you making some decisions revolving around dating because you're like, I want to settle down? You know, 5th house can be about having children. It is about true love. Definitely the placement of your Mercury is a little bit easier down here. You know, any which way you slice it, whether you look at it from Placidus perspective, where Mercury is there and the North Node is hitting it with Mars, or the 9th house whole sign, which is Leo, ruled by the Sun, and you're going to have, oh, Pluto squaring it. Something about younger people or children. So I'm wondering what the deal is. Are you feeling like the pressure of wanting to do that? Are you against being with somebody who's younger? Any feedback on that? Because that seems to be significant. You know, 2024, 2025, you're going to start seeing Uranus coming into conjunction with your Venus. And that's a time where It doesn't matter what those rule. That's where you need more freedom in regards to relationships, and you need to stay open. I could see when this transit happens and Juno is conjunct your moon that you will have already met someone and you're trying to decide whether or not that could actually be like a long-term relationship. Now, then in 2025, Jupiter will fully be in your 7th, but it's going to square your moon and it's going to square Neptune. So we've got a really similar situation as Austin, where Saturn's coming into the 3rd, Jupiter's in the 7th, and it squares. And you have the opportunity to be with another person, but you're back and forth in regards to like a living situation. I would be cautious. I'm not saying don't trust people, but you still have Neptune in opposition to your moon. So it's about not overly idealizing someone and seeing someone for what you want to see, like really being clear, right? Like taking off like the rose-colored glasses and seeing somebody for who they are. And not overly idealizing someone. There can be like people that you could meet that could be living in other cities or in other countries that you could also kind of get, you know, kind of involved with, because that opposition could be like, oh, couldn't it be great if we can be together? Like, you want to make sure you're not getting catfished. Jupiter coming into Gemini squaring this, you could get catfished big time. And then Uranus trine your moon too. So that's something else you're going to have next year, is your love life could dramatically get very interesting, very active right here when that starts happening. So in my mind, it gets even better next spring. So it's going to be like next spring when these trines start happening and when Mars is coming into conjunction with Mercury. And, you know, next year you're going to be 30 years old. So when you turn 30, you're in an annual perfection year 7, which is about commitment, relationships, marriage, partnerships, ruled by Mercury. Mars is going to hit your Mercury, and you're going to see Jupiter go into your 7th house. So let it be known, it's going to be sometime right around the end of May, beginning of June. That's when you're going to see all of these things start to set up, because Jupiter is going to be in your 7th house all year. And your 7th house lord is Mercury, and you're going to start seeing Mercury coming into connection with all these planets in your 5th house. And then when Mercury's in Gemini as well, there could be some traveling back and forth with another person or to see another person. But take it easy until Saturn starts opposing your moon and squaring Mercury. It means that you want to have all the conversations and be very clear about relationships before you enter into another relationship with someone. Because you're going to have Pluto square your sun for the next 2 years. And by whole sign standards, the sun rules your 9th house, 2nd marriage. And I want to make sure that you're on the same page with communication and that there isn't a sense of not having all of the conversations before you settle into another relationship. But yeah, definitely this next year is a big, I think, opportunity for relationships. And I think Jupiter being there all year long is going to give you a multitude. Sometimes 2 people show up when Jupiter's in the 7th house in Gemini, especially when you have a Gemini degree. So you really don't have to make a decision, in my mind, until closer to spring of 2025. So, you know, Jupiter in the 7th house can kind of be like man buffet. So keep your options open. Keep your options open and see who shows up. And don't let distance be an issue. Just make sure that they're real, that you're not kind of getting in love with the idea of what they could be, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you, Cassandra. All right, well, I'm pretty sure we got everybody. Let me catch up on the comments. Definitely book a reading. I'm always happy to help you guys. Thank you guys for hanging out with me on Friday night. I appreciate it. I know that this was a little bit of a longer one. We're here every Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. You guys like my content, make sure you click the bell button below so you're subscribed, so you're alerted as to when I have videos coming out on the channel. We'll be back on Sunday. We're going to talk about the transits for the week for the astro weather. If you guys have not already seen it on my website, I have a webinar. It's like a several-hour playback all about the eclipses for fall. So we're coming into eclipse season. I will do videos on it down the road, but I did a really deep presentation on both of the eclipses and what it means for all of the 12 signs, but all of us collectively. So you guys can pick that up on my website. Or you can sign up for my newsletter, check out some of my products, check out my classes, or sign up for a personal reading. You can find all of that at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. Until next time, I will see all of you guys very soon. Thank you guys for your love and your support. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.